Trial 2 kicks off, morphing the arena into an absolute bloodbath. Most candidates completely lose their minds. But our main character, Unsol, he's chilling against the wall, completely unfazed, like he's just dissecting a cold corpse. Then the ultimate twist drops. During the final showdown, everyone bets the powerhouse, Nong Wugang, will absolutely shred Unsol. Wugang unleashes a literal hurricane of blades, yet Unsol smoothly dodges everything, having already downloaded his opponent's entire moveset. By analyzing the mangled victims Wugang left behind, Unsol totally baits him, tricking the brute into a reckless finishing dash, targeting the head and heart. Seizing that split-second opening, Unsol swiftly ducks, sinking his dagger straight into the neck's fatal blind spot, a deadly technique passed down by his grandpa. Speaking of which, the name Unsol was a precious gift from him. Found abandoned in a freezing wasteland, our boy learned the gritty trade of an Undertaker from the old man, because his grandpa worked the exact same gig. One fateful night, Unsol assumed they were just heading out for fun. Little did he know, that would be their tragic final goodbye. He stumbled upon his grandpa, eyes mercilessly gouged out, both arms brutally severed. Just moments prior, his grandpa crossed paths with a shadowy phantom. This villain recognized him as the legendary demonic blade, Bu Jianyang, condemning him for abandoning their dark clan, swearing his ultimate destination was pure hell. Now, kneeling beside his dying grandpa, he catches his breathless final wish, drop the bloody revenge, and just live happily. Honestly, that's definitely not how this epic saga unfolds. This time, Unsol completely rejects that dying request. Investigating the mangled corpse, he confirms the arms were sliced clean off. Not to mention, the killer executed a vicious downward slash, a seriously rare and ridiculously overpowered martial arts technique. Plus, the strike shifted mid-air to ruthlessly blind the target. Unsol instantly clicks. This sinister, twisted style absolutely belongs to the demonic path. And the only skill leaving that brutal mark? The legendary Tianzu Yacha technique. Scanning the horrific gashes across his grandpa's back, he spots 93 hidden weapon puncture wounds, raining down like a deadly storm of petals. They definitely used a rigged mechanical device. A cursed gadget, launching hundreds of projectiles instantly. Plus, the blackened tongue and decaying nails scream one horrific, undeniable truth. That only drops when you're hit with a hyper-lethal toxin, literally melting away your flesh and completely rotting your blood. Piecing these twisted clues together, the suspect list is insanely tiny. He swears on his life to hunt this monster down, whatever the cost. Unsol wastes absolutely zero time kicking off his blood-soaked revenge arc, immediately pulling up to officially sign a lethal tournament contract. While handling the paperwork, an impatient instructor barks at him to hurry up and stamp it, but Unsol completely leaves the guy speechless. He literally bites his thumb open, sealing the dark contract with his own fresh blood. Since that tragic day, pure vengeance became his entire personality. He absolutely refuses to walk any other timeline but this bloody one. That's exactly why he's diving headfirst into this brutal, unhinged death game. He totally views this savage tournament as the epic prologue to his revenge. In this universe, Muram is strictly divided between orthodox and unorthodox factions, and they've been locked in an endless, bloody stalemate. The orthodox squads, loudly flying the banner of pure justice, answer only to the Muram alliance. Meanwhile, the unorthodox sects blindly follow the Demon Palace, a savage empire that literally worships raw, absolute power over boring justice. Even though they've kept this massive power balance for ages, the orthodox factions eventually got greedy and decided to completely dominate the entire board. This massive flex birthed the legendary 18 Martial Masters, an elite super squad known across the realm as absolute paragons of the greater good. Feeling the immense heat, the Demon Palace instantly leveled up their own game. To counter this rising threat, they cooked up an absolutely unhinged master plan. Their insane goal? Forging the supreme 10 Demon Masters. The unorthodox leaders are hunting down 10 ridiculously overpowered young prodigies to mold and inject them with the most forbidden demonic martial arts. The crazy part? They don't care at all about your past factions or shady history, or whatever crazy crimes you committed before entering the bloody gauntlet. Thanks to this absolutely wild open-door policy, swarms of ambitious fighters rushed the Demon Palace gates, and right in the absolute chaos, our savage boy, Unsol. Standing shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of ruthless rookies, Unsol instantly senses the heavy, pure, murderous aura radiating from the entire crowd, and his killer intuition screams that one of these punks is definitely linked to his grandpa's murderer. Since his ultimate prey is a high-tier boss, Unsol knows he must evolve into an unstoppable martial master to even scratch them. That's exactly why his sheer willpower is absolutely off the charts. He's aiming straight for a bloody seat among the 10 Demon Masters. He desperately needs to farm that dark power to obliterate his fated nemesis. Seconds later, an absolute unit of a terrifying man, steps out to confront the recruits. He violently introduces himself as head instructor Hyuk Ryun Young. The raw recruits are literally shook to their absolute core when Hyuk casually drops his legendary name. Turns out, this absolute menace is totally infamous in the dark underworld. Hyuk fiercely barks that they're only here to sift out the most monstrous prodigies. Across the entire demonic empire, only those who somehow survive his twisted, nightmarish trials will actually get to see tomorrow. Survivors earn the legendary right to fight for a demon master throne. And as for the very first brutal trial, he declares palace elites will brutally test their physical limits, instantly sending massive shockwaves of pure fear through the terrified crowd. Whispers of disappointment echo through the crowd. They wanted a blood-pumping trial, not this boring setup. The martial masters tune out the whining, immediately scanning their physiques to separate the weak from the worthy. Meanwhile, the muscle-bound meatheads are buzzing, thinking their massive builds just scored them a VIP ticket to round 2. Instructor Jin Gok steps right up to Unseo, eyes locked on his frame. The second his fingers connect, a chilling realization hits him. This kid is practically dead. Why even show up? But then, a suffocating aura of pure killing intent oozes from the boy's skin. Shaking off the dread, Jin Gak knows letting this ticking time bomb advance would be an absolute disaster. He instantly rejects him. Honestly, Unseo barely even blinks at the massive rejection. He knew his frail frame stood zero chance. Spending your entire life tending to rotting corpses does not exactly build martial muscles. Still, a gut feeling tells Unseo this twisted game is far from over. Suddenly, the instructor declares round 1 finished. Instantly, some hot-headed rookie snaps, screaming that this whole rigged system is complete trash. Why even hype up a legendary tournament if you only care about who lifts the heaviest rocks? Hyuk shoots him a cold glare. You literally know absolutely nothing, kid. The absolute foundation of supreme martial arts lies purely in your bones and muscles. Hyuk mercilessly roasts the guy for failing the lowest possible bar, especially after they generously opened the gates for everyone. The rookie cries about equal opportunities. Smirking, Hyuk tells him to chill out, because the real nightmare of round 2 is approaching. He wants to unearth the rare gems who can master absolute power, despite having trash-tier physiques. Without missing a single beat, Hyuk officially kicks off the brutal second phase. The ultimate twist? A ruthless battle royale. Fight to the death until only a single victor remains breathing. Pure shockwaves through the crowd. But that hyped-up hothead from earlier? He instantly locks into full psycho mode. Knowing blood must spill, his deadpan gaze immediately zeroes in on his first unlucky prey. It looks exactly like Unseo. Snatching a massive spear, he launches it straight at Unseo, completely dead set on sending him straight to the grave. The deadly blade slices the air toward Unseo, but massive plot twist. He was never the actual target at all. The weapon brutally impales the guy in red standing right next door, a bitter rival of the vicious attacker. Screaming in sheer agony, the red-clothed rival collapses, violently coughing up blood before expiring. Warm crimson splatters directly across Unseo's cheek. Staring down at the gruesome pool of crimson, Unseo is low-key stunned. A guy was just brutally speared to death right in front of him. With one icy analytical glance, Unseo flawlessly dissects the exact mechanics of this brutal execution. The blade cleanly pierced the heart, completely bypassing the ribcage. This attacker, Won Chung, boasts some seriously insane precision and agility. Won Chung immediately starts flexing, massively hyping himself up for drawing first blood. Observing from his high ground, Hyuk quietly acknowledges Won Chung's razor-sharp decision-making skills, but zero survival instinct. Shaking his head, Hyuk basically writes off this entire generation as a bunch of clueless clowns. Jin Gak totally agrees. Flexing your power in a chaotic deathmatch just paints a massive target on your own back. Still, this bloody wake-up call is exactly what the other scrubs need to realize this is a genuine slaughterfest. In a flash, pure madness explodes. The grand arena instantly devolves into a terrifying slaughterhouse. Greenhorns who have never tasted real death start having total meltdowns. But suddenly, the instructors spot one kid staying insanely frosty. Chilling against the stone wall, he gives absolutely zero care about the raging bloodbath unfolding mere inches away. Then, they spot Unseo radiating an unnatural calmness amidst the massacre, forcing Hyuk to swallow his words about them all being fools. Unseo maintains his icy composure, secretly pitying these clowns for letting the sheer terror of death completely hijack their minds. The core mission was survival until the very end. The ultimate goal is staying breathing, not racking up brainless kills. Unseo calculates his odds. Cold, rational logic is his only guaranteed ticket out of this living hell. Crouching down, Unseo runs his hands over the fallen corpses, coldly analyzing the exact mechanics of their gruesome demises. Mid-investigation, a sniper-type competitor spots Unseo and realizes this weird kid has been totally ghosting the massive free-for-all brawl. Unbothered, Unseo keeps dissecting the fatal strike patterns on the corpses. Triggered by this absolute disrespect, the spectator violently launches his weapon. The deadly projectile shaves past Unseo's skull, completely obliterating the mysterious wooden box strapped to his back. The attacker openly mocks him, questioning why a supposed monk would even bother lugging around such a completely useless piece of trash. Smashing that precious birthday treasure from his beloved grandfather was a guaranteed death sentence, sparking absolute fury. A sleek dagger gleams inside, but this arrogant thug completely underestimates Yoon Seol's hidden lethal potential. He brutally mocks the tiny blade, yet, while utterly blinded by his own ego, that edgy swordsman materializes right behind him like a phantom. A merciless slash ends his life. The smug killer arrogantly commands Yoon Seol to skip the gratitude entirely, claiming the boy was simply convenient bait. Throughout this arrogant speech, Yoon Seol stays absolutely laser-focused on his own task, completely blanking the assassin. Noting zero martial aura, the killer cruelly dismisses our protagonist as nothing but pathetic, helpless fodder. Suddenly, an ambush strikes from the shadows, but the elite warrior effortlessly slices the attacker into ribbons without even flinching. His sixth sense is terrifying. Observing from above, Hyuk interrogates Jin Gok about this freakishly overpowered guy wielding a legendary blade, the infamous extermination sword. How did this random rogue acquire the mythical artifact of the legendary Black Soul, the most invincible vagabond warrior in history? Jin Gok formally identifies this monster as Nung Wugong, citing terrifying underworld rumors, claiming he unearthed the Grandmaster's hidden demonic scrolls alongside the relic. Supposedly, Wugang devoured those forbidden teachings entirely, becoming the sole inheritor of unimaginable power. Despite lacking raw brute strength, Wugong reigns as the undisputed tournament frontrunner today, since nobody projects such overwhelming killing intent. Yet, Jin Gok suspects destiny might throw an absolute curveball, thanks to wild, unpredictable chaos. As the bloody dust settles, only Wugong and Yoon Seol remain standing. Wugong genuinely gapes at this miracle. How did a weakling survive? The cocky martial artist coldly promises our boy, slashing him guarantees a coveted spot among the legendary 10 demon masters. His bloodlust spikes, desperate to claim that prestigious glory. Despite facing down the most terrifying apex predator in this absolute slaughterhouse, our hero refuses to break a single sweat. Zero fear registers in those eyes. His chilling, stone-cold glare remains absolutely unbothered. Why? He already decoded the master's fatal flaw. Gripping his dagger, Yoon Seol radiated pure, unapologetic confidence in his impending victory. Wugang playfully toys with his prey, unleashing a devastating storm of blinding sword slashes, intended to shred him apart. Mind blown, Yoon Seol weaves through the deadly steel tempest like a ghost, escaping the onslaught without a single, fatal scratch. High above, the overseers spectate this massacre. While it visually seems our underdog is taking a brutal, one-sided beating, they realize he mathematically contorts his posture right before impact, perfectly evading critical damage. A chilling epiphany suddenly strikes Jin Gok. Yoon Seol literally reverse-engineered those sword techniques just by analyzing the mangled corpses scattered around. The sheer genius-level perception leaves Jin Gok totally speechless. Pushing the envelope, Yoon Seol boldly trash-talks Wugong's ultimate techniques, mocking the shallow paper cuts he received. Jin Gok instantly recognizes the psychological warfare triggering Wugong, yet crippling anxiety remains. Can this amateur actually execute the flawless, fatal counterstrike required to topple a martial arts prodigy? The bait works perfectly. Boiling with psychotic rage, Wugong charges like a rabid beast, desperate to completely obliterate this disrespectful punk. With the monster closing in fast, Yoon Seol realizes this is his singular window of opportunity. His mind races, locking onto the perfect counter-strategy, sourced entirely from battlefield evidence. He deduced Wugong's death blow targets critical organs via unbridled instinct, prioritizing the brain and heart. Anticipating this trajectory, our brilliant protagonist finalized a deadly trap. A millisecond before the Grim Reaper strikes, Yoon Seol drops low. The lethal blade whiffs overhead, exposing Wugong's entire guard directly to disaster. A flashback hits. His wise grandfather once mapped out a universal anatomical blind spot hidden deep within the human throat. Even a fragile toddler could assassinate a grandmaster by piercing this exact acupoint with surgical, absolute precision, applying enough pressure to break skin. This singular, fatal node is Yoon Seol's golden ticket. Blinded by fury, Wugang literally feeds his jugular to the dagger. The invincible swordsman feels a horrifying plunge. Cold steel impales his throat, erupting a crimson fountain. The undisputed tournament favorite instantly collapses into the dirt, crowning our underdog as the ultimate bloodbath survivor. The VIP spectators are absolutely paralyzed by this jaw-dropping, one-in-a-million miracle. The exact wildcard Jin Gok predicted. Meanwhile, Hyuk sulks over Wugong's pathetic defeat, heavily mourning his shattered, overhyped expectations. Tragic for a Black Soul inheritor. Regardless of the upset, the reluctant judge crowns our fierce boy champion of the brutal second trial. Suddenly, the world dissolves into an eerie white void, revealing a familiar elder waiting afar. Pure elation propels him toward his mentor, but that heartwarming joy violently shatters the exact second he turns. Hollow, empty eye sockets. The ghostly figure panics, screaming into the darkness, snapping Yoon Seol back to a terrifying reality. Gasping for air, he jolts awake aboard a rocking vessel. He figures a massive blackout occurred mid-battle. Massive blood loss took him down, but a terrifying realization hits. He explicitly remembers sustaining fatal battle wounds, but the agonizing pain? Completely gone. He instantly realizes a master healer must have patched him up, someone elite from the demonic palace. Glancing around, the other guys on deck radiate pure killer instinct. Then it hits him like a truck. These absolute monsters are the sole survivors of the brutal first trial. Suddenly, the heavy hatch swings open. Jingak emerges, barking harsh orders to step off the ship. Welcome to your worst nightmare, Hell Island, the ultimate testing ground. Jingak glares daggers at the fresh meat, commanding them to follow his lead. He marches them straight toward a jagged row of desolate cave dwellings. Toss your old gear and weapons, he shouts, ordering them to step out only when fully prepped, suited up in uniform black robes and standard blades. Surprisingly, the rookies get to claim their own turf. Pick whatever cave fits your vibe. Instantly, Yoonsol's sharp eyes lock onto a hidden gem of a spot, the absolute perfect tactical hideout. Meanwhile, two loudmouths are already bumping chests over a completely different prime location, each ready to throw hands for territory. Another guy steps in, trying to cool down the escalating turf war. Relax, there is plenty of space for everyone. Secretly, Unsol just smirks at these clueless idiots. They have zero clue about the sheer bloodbath of the second trial. Walking around with their guards completely dropped, scanning the crowd, Unsol catches the glint of premium silk. These brats are definitely dripping wealth, spelling out their ties to legendary noble clans. The puzzle clicks that second trial was just a ruthless slaughterhouse, designed to purge the weak links. Mid-thought, a chilling presence looms right over Yoonsol's shoulder. It is Jingak. Why the hesitation, kid? He demands, calling out Yoonseol for moving like a total snail all day. Actually, Jingak has been secretly hyping Yoonsol up since the bloodbath, eager to see his strategic play here. Stop stalling and choose. Yoonsol calmly points to a busted cave with a ridiculously narrow, mud-caked entrance. A random extra instantly mocks him, laughing that the garbage spot matches his trash status. But Jingak? Mind blown. This kid is an absolute tactical genius. Sure, the mouth of the cave looks like a suffocating rat hole, but the hollowed-out interior is massive enough for hardcore training. Plus, that tight bottleneck is a flawless defensive choke point. Normies just see trash. But Jingak grins like a maniac at this absolute galaxy brain survival tactic. Yoonsol read the battlefield perfectly. Soon, the recruits emerge from the shadows, dripping in pitch-black cult drip. They line up for the instructor's briefing. Jingak reveals this infernal island houses 10 legendary martial arts academies. Each domain teaches a lethal technique from the 10 demonic sects. The craziest part? Total absolute freedom. Master every single style or min-max just one. No rules, no rigid timetables holding them back. Sleep, chill, or grind till you bleed, it is fully up to them. Unsol feels his jaw hit the floor. After surviving pure hell, there is zero chance this demonic cult is just handing out free vacation time. The hyped-up crowd instantly erupts, frantically debating which overpowered skill tree to unlock first. Everyone agrees the Fire Rain Sword Sect is the ultimate meta build for raw, destructive power. Unsol just observes, the mindless sheep stampeding toward the flashiest pavilion. Sure, wielding a blazing inferno blade sounds epic, but it is completely useless for a base-level noob like him. He quickly analyzes the vast options, hunting for a style that actually guarantees survival. Skirting the crowd, Unsol approaches the Wandering Beast Pavilion, a total rundown dump. This forgotten faction has practically decayed into dust, barely clinging to its rank among the Elite 10. They only survived the chopping block thanks to their legendary track record of forging absolute demonic beasts in the past. Old memories flash back. His grandfather once whispered spine-chilling tales about this very sect. The dirt shifts. Boom, a literal human head bursts through the soil. The buried crazy old man asks if he actually seeks the throne of a demon master. Surprise, this subterranean weirdo is Sawu, the pavilion's grandmaster. Shaking off the hardcore jump scare, Unsol stares him down. I am here to master the ancient arts of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. The eccentric master shoots Unsol a piercing, hypercritical glare, instantly scanning his pathetic, string bean physique. Disappointment washes over Sawu as he bluntly orders the kid to scram. I am not wasting my secret techniques on you. One brutal training session would literally snap your glass bones. Yunsol stands his ground, eyes burning. He pleads that mastering these specific arts is the ultimate survival cheat code. You can outlive any hell. Sawu flinches, absolutely mind-blown that this fragile kid even knows about their obscure, forbidden techniques. Figuring this dying art is doomed anyway, Sawu warns Unsol that mastering their ancient techniques is an absolute nightmare, and this brutal reality crushes even the most arrogant prodigies who dare to try. He explains their brutal path demands complete body reconstruction, and looking at this fragile kid, Unsol wouldn't survive a single dawn. Sawu orders him out immediately, but our boy suddenly drops the ultimate reverse card. By bowing deep and loudly thanking the old man for accepting him as a disciple, this audacious stunt proves to Sawu that this kid is totally unhinged, reluctantly trapping him into the daunting role of master. Still, Sawu coldly snaps that he is only obeying the Demon Palace's strict orders. Finally, crawling out from his subterranean grave, the old man fiercely demands the title of master. Unseol tries introducing himself, but gets ruthlessly silenced. Sawu coldly dubs him trainee number 1. Wasting zero time, the elder eagerly ignites their hellish training session by weaving a bizarre hand seal. A crushing wave of demonic aura slams into Unsol out of nowhere, and his world violently plunges into pitch-black darkness. Right as sheer panic threatens to consume him, Sawu smirks, revealing he merely locked his eyesight temporarily, using a forbidden secret technique of their sect. This terrifying blackout is the absolute first step to mastering the Wandering Beast Path, their sect's foundational martial technique. Unseol stands completely baffled, while his new master details how this feral path will forcefully awaken all his dormant senses, granting him the bloodthirsty, lightning-fast reflexes of a wild beast. Sawu reveals that their martial arts wildly mutate based on the user's soul. That is exactly why this beastly foundation, despite being a basic technique, is notoriously brutal, leaving countless failures in its bloody wake. But if Unsol somehow survives this, he will inherit the terrifying instincts of a wandering beast. With a sinister, confident grin, Sawu teases that most weaklings perish before reaching this stage. He casually announces he will return in exactly 1 hour, ordering the kid to embrace the blinding darkness. Left utterly alone, a chilling realization violently strikes Unsol's core. He fully expected his remaining senses to instantly skyrocket, but everything just feels terrifyingly numb and dangerously muffled. That promised 1 hour wait suddenly feels like an agonizing eternity as he blindly navigates this deadly demonic underworld. Frantic survival instincts kick in. He must adapt instantly because this ruthless competition waits for no one. One unseen ambush right now means instant, brutal death. His racing mind conjures a terrifying phantom assault, flooding his veins with pure adrenaline and forcing him into an erratic defensive sprint. Yet, he stumbles horribly, realizing that mastering his shattered center of gravity is absolute priority in this terrifying blind state. Exactly 1 hour later, Sawu creeps back, expecting to find a weeping, terrified mess. Instead, his jaw completely drops. As Unseol flawlessly leaps through the dense shadows, the master quickly deduces the kid is shadowboxing a phantom killer, forcefully adapting to the pitch-black void with terrifying speed. Masking his internal shock with cold indifference, Sawu initiates a lethal pop quiz. A deadly blade arcs toward the boy's neck as Sawu commands him to dodge. The hellish sparring officially commences, and for 3 agonizing days, Unseol continually eats the dirt. Yet, the old master is secretly blown away that this battered kid hasn't whined once about the brutal regimen. Puzzled, Sawu directly demands to know exactly why. He blindly trusts this absolute torture. Unsol calmly recites that their sect's true essence fundamentally lies in seeking ultimate enlightenment, proving he firmly believes there is a profound, hidden reason behind every single bruise he currently endures. A proud smirk graces Sawu's weathered face as he confirms the kid hit the absolute bullseye. With that, the brutal dance forcefully resumes. Sawu rockets forward like a missile, but suddenly, Unsol's dormant beastly instincts awaken. The incoming killing intent flares like a blazing beacon. Blind but hyper-aware, he realizes dodging this strike is completely impossible, leaving only one desperate gamble: a head-on block. In the razor-thin fraction of a second before total impact, Unsol desperately swings his blade up, miraculously intercepting the deadly strike. This completely impossible feat rattles Sawu to his bones, because nobody awakens this monstrous battle sense in a mere 3 days. Regaining his composure, the overwhelming residual force still blasts Unsol into the dirt. Out of nowhere, Sawu casually tosses over a mysterious bamboo flask, barking at him to chug its entire contents. Expecting stale water, the battered boy takes a massive gulp, but instantly freezes. Pure, Explosive vitality violently erupts through his exhausted veins, aggressively replenishing his drained body like absolute magic. He just consumed the legendary spring spiritual water that his old master had ruthlessly hoarded his entire life. Sacrificing his most precious treasure, Sawu feels absolutely zero regret, entirely convinced that this wild kid is destined for absolute greatness. He was staring at a once-in-a-lifetime monster, the absolute genius he had spent his entire life begging the heavens for. With their stamina fully restored, the brutal training resumed, and they clashed with explosive, earth-shattering intensity. Blades collided for several relentless minutes, until Sawu abruptly dropped his stance. He erupted into maniacal laughter, realizing his lifelong hunt was finally over. Suddenly, Unseal blinked as his vision miraculously returned. Looking him dead in the eye, Sawu dropped the act. He begged the kid to ditch the 10 Demon Master's dream and become the sole heir to his own faction instead. Sawu swore on his life that he could mold Unseal into one of the top 10 powerhouses of the entire demonic cult, and he would do it in just 10 years. Unseal felt his heart race. It was an insanely tempting, god-tier offer. He knew Sawu was not bluffing, but a dark memory flashed in his mind. His grandfather's murderer was an absolute monster. Facing that kind of overpowered enemy, settling for just the Wandering Beast Pavilion's arts simply would not cut it. He needed ultimate power. Bowing respectfully, Unseal rejected the insane offer, declaring his unbreakable vow to become a demon master. Sawu scoffed, warning the boy to wake up. Mastering all the 10 demonic sex arts was nothing but a delusional pipe dream. Hell, not even the legendary Grand Heavenly Demon Emperor could pull that off. And that guy literally invented his own god-tier techniques. Sawu dropped some harsh truth. Every martial path demands a specific body type and a completely unique energy flow. Unseal argued that even the most broken geniuses cap out at 2 or 3 styles. Therefore, focusing entirely on one single martial art is the ultimate shortcut to dominating the demonic faction. Even with all of this preaching, Unseal's fiery resolve showed zero signs of wavering, leaving Sawu no choice but to back off. Swallowing his bitter disappointment, he made a final promise. He would pass down an entirely different legacy. Unseal's jaw dropped, as he had only scratched the absolute basics of the Wandering Beast sect. Sawu grinned, revealing that their true techniques were not taught through boring manuals. They were carved into the soul. Furthermore, Sawu confessed he had secretly been using the legendary Wild Beast path all along. The truth hit Unseal like a shockwave. Every single brutal, bone-crushing sword strike he had barely survived was the genuine Wild Beast path in action. Overwhelmed with immense gratitude, Unseal dropped into a deep, respectful bow to his harsh mentor. Sawu waved off the praise, claiming he was just following strict orders from the Demon Palace. But the stubborn rookie refused to listen. Unseal swore to carve this massive debt into his bones, especially after receiving those priceless elixirs. But Sawu just scoffed, telling him to drop it. This is the merciless Junghu, kid. Sawu warned that surviving this bloody world meant erasing all concepts of favors and petty grudges entirely. With their business settled, Unseal dropped to his knees for one final, honorable bow before leaving. Sawu watched the boy's fading silhouette with profound respect, wondering where heaven found such a monster. Meanwhile, deep inside the shadowy forest, Unseal gasped. His senses had evolved. He could feel every single rustling leaf and breathing creature around him. Was this the insane passive buff of the Wild Beast path? But the sensory overload was draining his mental energy fast. He needed an off switch immediately. If his brain kept processing this much data, he would literally go insane from the lack of sleep. Taking a deep breath, he forcefully suppressed his blazing senses. As his mind finally quieted down, the massive gap between his normal state and his awakened beast radar became crystal clear. Shaking off the shock, Unseal whipped out his battered map. He needed a new target. The clock was ticking mercilessly on this survival game, and every wasted second mattered. He needed to speedrun this. After some intense strategic planning, he set his sights on the legendary founder who once clashed evenly with the great Heavenly Demon Emperor 700 years ago. The ultimate badass behind the blazing Fire Rain sword sect, with his timer running dangerously low, infiltrating the absolute strongest faction of the 10 demonic sects, was his only viable option. Approaching their massive gates, he immediately felt the insane pressure. This place made the Wandering Beast Pavilion look like a joke. He knocked, and a heavy voice echoed from the shadows. The massive doors creaked open, revealing the imposing instructor Jingak. The veteran master froze, utterly baffled by the kid's arrival. Unseal bowed deeply, boldly declaring his ambition to devour the blazing arts of the Fire Rain sword sect. But Unseal's jaw dropped when his heightened senses scanned Jingak. The guy was a literal martial arts monster. Gesturing for the rookie to follow, Jingak dropped some heavy news about the other candidates. The other prodigies were already leagues ahead. They had crushed the beginner stages and were grinding through the intermediate trials. This hellish gauntlet was split into 3 distinct nightmare zones: beginner, intermediate, and the absolute peak, advanced. Jingak raised an eyebrow. Why the hell did it take him 2 entire weeks to finally show his face here? Unsal casually dropped the bomb that he had been surviving the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Jingak's eyes widened as he half-jokingly asked if the kid actually mastered the legendary Wild Beast path. Unsal nodded coldly, making the instructor's brain short-circuit in pure disbelief. This absolute prodigy devoured the Wild Beast path in just 2 weeks, confirming his undeniable genius. He figured Sa Wu practically kicked him out, completely overwhelmed by his monster-like potential. Stepping into the training grounds, Jingak's aura shifts. He steps up as the head instructor commanding the beginner trials. He locks eyes with Yunsol, questioning his true dedication to the legendary Fire Rain sword art. Warning him to seek a lesser dojo instead, Yunsol calmly brushes off the instructor's heavy doubts. His mind is entirely set. He craves nothing but the blazing techniques of the Fire Rain sect. Accepting the challenge, Jingak stomps the earth, manifesting a sacred training scroll right out of thin air. He tosses over the ultimate beginner's blueprint, the foundational secrets behind the Fire Rain 13 forms. Expecting him to self-study, the instructor waits. But our main character is completely lost, staring blankly at chaotic ink strokes. The cryptic symbols make zero sense to him. Hearing this rookie confession, Jingak nearly drops his jaw. Flabbergasted, he asks if the kid can even decipher martial texts. Unseol drops a massive bombshell. He is completely illiterate here. Before the recent tournament, he had never even held a blade. That terrifying truth instantly sends chills down the instructor's spine. Absolutely paralyzed by shock, Jingak double-checks the ridiculous claim, and the rookie casually nods. A total blank slate in martial arts. Yet, rather than facepalming, a wave of deep respect washes over the master. Recalling the boy's monstrous feats, he realizes something crazy. With the right guidance, this uncut gem will become an unstoppable god. Changing tactics, the teacher asks if he can at least read basic words, to which our oblivious hero easily agrees. He starts reading the text aloud, deciphering the crucial mental preparations required before even swinging a weapon. Attempting to mimic the written stances, he wildly flails around like a total amateur, absolutely horrifying his new master. The veteran can hardly believe he must teach this terrifying monster the absolute basics of human movement. Deep inside the legendary selection hall, the seasoned warrior steps uncomfortably close to his clueless new disciple. He physically molds the boy's rigid frame, barking orders to release all tension and fully stabilize his inner core. In a split second, the rookie perfectly locks into the ideal stance, leaving his instructor completely blown away. The sheer speed of his physical comprehension feels practically inhuman to witness. With his foundation finally set, the master declares it is time to ignite the legendary Fire Rain 13 forms. Tossing him a cold steel blade, he demonstrates the breathtaking precision and flawless rhythm required for the art. Like a mirror, the prodigy flawlessly copies every complex swing, leaving the veteran warrior utterly speechless on the sidelines. He finally surrenders to the terrifying truth. This kid possesses a heaven-defying talent for combat. Following intense drills, the master orders him to visualize a deadly opponent and unleash the 13 blazing strikes. Baffled by the concept of shadowboxing, the rookie hesitates, but the teacher reveals this is the ultimate test of progression. Crushing this trial is his only ticket to the intermediate ranks. It is designed to expose the hidden aura within his blade. Adrenaline spikes through his veins. The golden opportunity to flex his true power has finally arrived. With this shortcut presenting itself, he vows to shatter expectations immediately. Closing his eyes, a phantom materializes. The very monster who brutally slaughtered his beloved grandfather. Steel sings. He erupts forward, detonating the first blazing form with absolute, terrifying ferocity. The instructor freezes in awe as the boy chains together the 13 techniques, dancing like a god of destruction. But wait, a chilling realization hits the master. The sacred forms are subtly mutating mid-swing. What should be a flowing, elegant dance has morphed into an extremely jagged, bloodthirsty execution. His mind short-circuits. Rewriting foundational martial arts is a divine feat, reserved strictly for legendary grandmasters. The blade oozes a suffocating, demonic bloodlust, projecting the raw agony of a man seeking ultimate revenge. He watches in sheer horror as his sect's righteous orthodox legacy is effortlessly twisted into a lethal weapon. Witnessing this dark aura, the master senses the brutal, unspoken trauma scarring the young boy's hidden past. Snapping back to reality, the prodigy catches himself, corrupting the pure rhythm of the blazing strikes. The savage instincts of the wild beast path are aggressively leaking into his new swordplay. While merging the two immense powers sounds epic, it would completely destroy the original art. birthing an unrecognizable hybrid. It would completely erase the Fire Rain legacy. Recognizing this danger, he forces his chaotic energy back down. He instantly shifts back into the natural Fire Rain 13 forms, but this time, his aura radiates pure, unfiltered danger. Visualizing his prey dead ahead, he completely lets loose, erupting with every ounce of blazing rage buried inside his soul. Jingak watches entirely spellbound, forced to acknowledge the kid's terrifying, lightning-fast speed as he closes in on his phantom enemy. Fully consumed by the blood-pumping zone, Unsol treats the illusion like absolute reality, vowing to annihilate his target before it vanishes. Driven by pure instinct, he dumps every remaining ounce of energy into a single, explosive assault. Unsol detonates his fury, unleashing a devastating barrage of lethal strikes to guarantee a kill. But the sheer recoil of his own monstrous power violently backfires, shattering his stance and sending his blade flying. Yet, instead of scolding the rookie for this messy finish, Jingak is utterly blown away. Unsol stands completely paralyzed when Jingak officially declares his victory. The veteran master quickly breaks it down, revealing that the true exam was never about perfection, but rather his raw combat instinct and lethal execution of the Fire Rain. 13 forms. Scooping up the fallen blade, Jingak hands it back to the stunned student, officially confirming he crushed every single benchmark. He openly praises Unsol, calling his aggressive variation of the technique absolutely breathtaking, and firmly commands him to march straight into the intermediate chamber. Overwhelmed with immense gratitude, Unsol realizes just how frustrating and agonizing it must have been to mold an absolute zero-experience rookie into a capable swordsman from scratch. Dropping into a deep, respectful bow, Unsol thanks his mentor for the brutal grind. Jingak nods, urging the kid to keep pushing his limits, but drops a heavy warning about the terrifying, bloodthirsty aura leaking from his strikes. Delivering his final piece of master-level advice, he begs Unsol not to let that dark, suffocating bloodlust consume his soul. As the two martial artists part ways, the sheer reality hits Jingak. This absolute monster mastered the savage wild beast path in a mere 14 days. His monstrous talent defies logic entirely. Thanks to this insane growth rate, he is blitzing into the next tier, light years ahead of anyone's expectations. While the veteran once seriously doubted the rookie's raw potential to survive the brutal climb, witnessing that explosive shadowboxing session completely obliterated any lingering skepticism. Beyond that, Jingak is grinning, totally betting that the notoriously strict higher-up instructor, Qian Wenguang, will develop an absolute obsession with this unpolished gem after just one lesson. Meanwhile, our main character aggressively kicks open the doors to his new class, only to face an insanely frosty reception as the teacher barks at him to get lost, claiming the roster is totally maxed out. Qian radiates pure disrespect, thoroughly unimpressed by the rumor that this supposed late bloomer took weeks just to scrape past the absolute basics. With zero hesitation, Qian brutally announces that trash-tier talent like his will get completely devoured in this advanced environment. Refusing to back down, Unsol fires back, explaining his delay was strictly due to surviving the hellish Wandering Beast Pavilion. Hearing this wild claim, the arrogant instructor just scoffs, totally convinced this weakling cowardly tapped out of the brutal survival camp because he couldn't handle the crushing pressure. Still, rules are rules, so Qian bitterly commands the rookie to grab a spot among the elite disciples. The lesson resumes immediately, with Qian lecturing the room that the legendary Fire Rain, Thundering Sword relies entirely on blindingly fast footwork, warning that any sloppy execution will instantly result in bloody self-mutilation. He brutally adds that wielding this specific blade art in an actual deathmatch is insanely difficult, much like their previous foundation. Regardless of the massive risk, mastering this lethal dance is strictly mandatory, designed entirely to forge razor-sharp weapon mastery, rather than securing easy victories. Suddenly, Qian singles out an elite student, Biok Hansong, demanding a live combat demonstration. Ordered to select a sparring partner, a highly toxic smirk creeps across Biok's face as he asks if there are absolutely zero restrictions on his choice. Receiving a nod, the bully immediately targets fresh meat, pointing his finger straight at Unsol. He loudly claims the new guy as his victim. Chon attempts to veto this totally unfair matchup, but the arrogant senior instantly claps back, throwing the instructor's own words right back in his face. Uncomfortable with the incoming slaughter, Qian questions the logic of testing high-tier skills against a total newbie who literally just walked through the door. Before Chan can force a reroll, Unsol boldly interrupts the tension, coldly declaring he is absolutely down for the bloody smoke. The instructor's jaw practically hits the floor, but Unsol heavily flexes, name-dropping Jin Gak as his personal, hardcore mentor. The fearless main character casually states that surviving a brutal, hands-on beatdown is the absolute fastest way to level up his stats. Assuming the kid is just desperately protecting his fragile ego, Cheon washes his hands of the impending doom. He coldly greenlights the savage duel, sarcastically wishing them luck on their impossible grind to the advanced chamber. Meanwhile, the absolute menace Byok is mentally celebrating hitting the ultimate jackpot, thrilled to have secured a totally defenseless punching bag to publicly humiliate and painfully destroy. Dark intentions swirl in his eyes, actively plotting a lethal accident to shamelessly flex his terrifying supremacy. Under the watchful eyes of their classmates, the duo grabs their wooden swords, completely ready for an epic clash. Byuk smirks, praising Yoon-sol's guts, but coldly warns him that reckless courage alone will not keep him alive in the ruthless Murim. Byuk instantly lunges forward, but Yoon-sol just gracefully sidesteps the explosive strike. Slightly amazed but totally unconvinced, Byuk ramps up the pressure. He unleashes a heavy barrage, forcing Yoon-sol to parry the incoming strike, with his wooden blade instead of weaving away. Hearing the clumsy clash of their weapons, Byuk instantly realizes that Yoon-sol is a total amateur, making his wicked smile grow even wider. Treating the fight like an absolute joke, Byuk carelessly triggers the brutal thundering sword technique. Yet, Yoon-sol stays ice cold, smoothly evading every single deadly slash thrown his way. Humiliated, Byuk's cocky attitude quickly morphs into pure rage, a shift that instructor Cheon notices immediately. It becomes glaringly obvious that Byuk's actual sword mastery is embarrassingly weak. Meanwhile, Yoon-sol dances through the deadly onslaught, flawlessly predicting his opponent's every single movement. Watching this flawless footwork, Cheon starts suspecting that this kid genuinely mastered the legendary wild beast path. As a seasoned warrior himself, he intimately knows exactly how impossibly hard this foundational technique is to truly master and comprehend, since it demands the deep enlightenment of veteran masters. Byuk flat-out refuses to accept that Yoon-sol achieved this mastery in a mere 2 weeks. Deciding to escalate the tension, Cheon harshly reminds Yoon-sol that surviving a duel requires way more than just running away, demanding to witness their actual offensive strikes and killer instincts. Upon hearing the instructor's fierce command, Yoon-sol flips the switch. His aura shifts as he aggressively retaliates using the blazing Fire Rain 13 forms. Byuk scoffs at the incoming strike, sensing zero killing intent from what looks like a horribly botched version of the famous technique. Dripping with arrogance, he assumes he can effortlessly brush off the pathetic counterattack without breaking a sweat. But panic instantly strikes his core. The crushing weight of the blade slams into him, violently pushing him onto the heavy defensive. Byuk's mind races in absolute chaos. Is this brat intentionally using a mutated sword art just to completely humiliate him in combat? Or is this insane flex an arrogant stunt designed to catch the instructor's eye and secure a fast-track ticket straight into the elite advanced chamber? Suddenly realizing his impending and absolute utter disgrace in front of everyone, Byuk completely snaps. He abandons all restraint and proudly activates the terrifying and forbidden Asura sword style. He viciously unleashes the blood-shattering strike, determined to brutally execute Yoon-sol in a single, devastating blow. This murderous technique is the ultimate killing move of the Asura sect. But since Cheon never established any rules against using lethal arts, he just coldly observes. To Cheon's absolute shock, even while staring directly down the barrel of this bloodthirsty and chaotic onslaught, Yoon-sol's posture remains utterly flawless. The terrifying realization that this kid truly conquered the wild beast path hits Cheon again. Refusing to accept reality, Byuk watches in despair as Yoon-sol smoothly weaves through his deadly storm of blades, pushing him to desperately trigger his ultimate trump card, the Bloody Wind Warping Moon. Seeing this suicidal move leaves Cheon absolutely speechless, and he watches breathlessly as Byuk launches himself into the sky for a fatal strike. In a blinding flash of motion, the dust settles to reveal a jaw-dropping scene. Yoon-sol's wooden blade has deeply pierced Byuk's chest, executing the flawless Fire Rain 13th form. Yoon-sol coldly yanks his weapon back. Byuk viciously coughs up a fountain of blood before collapsing heavily onto the dirt, completely lifeless after absorbing that single, devastating counterattack. The entire training ground freezes in absolute terror, their minds struggling to quickly process this sudden brutal murder. Without batting an eye, Yoon-sol returns his training gear. Meanwhile, Cheon quietly approaches the fallen student, confirming the terrifying truth. The kid is dead, having his vital energy core completely shattered. Cheon intensely locks eyes with Yoon-sol, demanding to know if he was a secret disciple of the Wandering Knight Pavilion. When the boy calmly denies it, Cheon is forced to ask if he truly conquered the path in 2 weeks. Yoon-sol casually shrugs, claiming he only picked up the absolute basic concepts of the technique. Cheon flashes a highly twisted smile of disgust, fully knowing that god-tier evasion was absolutely anything but basic. He sarcastically grills the boy, wondering aloud if his mysterious master also taught him to lie. Before Yoon-sol can even explain, Cheon abruptly snaps, ordering him to clean up his bloody mess. Angry whispers instantly explode among the terrified candidates, who are deeply outraged that a simple training bout just escalated into a cold-blooded execution. They eagerly wait for harsh punishment to drop, but Cheon brutally shatters their naive expectations. He darkly chuckles, reminding these sheltered fools that this is no ordinary dojo. They are currently standing right on the cursed grounds of Hell Island. Out here, if you unleash murderous intent against an opponent, you better be fully prepared to die by the exact same sword. Letting that chilling reality sink in, Cheon ruthlessly restarts the bloody trials, forcing the trembling recruits to clash once again. Anyone who hesitates or falls in battle is mercilessly dragged away, branded as pathetic failures who couldn't survive the hellish trial. He coldly orders the rejects to pack their bags and find a different dojo. Their journey with the Fire Rain sect has completely crashed and burned. The desperate dropouts beg for mercy, but Cheon firmly shuts them down. He brutally explains that mere physical fitness barely got them through the first trial. To truly master the Fire Rain sword, they desperately need legendary talent to shatter their mortal limits. Since these losers completely lacked that blazing potential, they inevitably failed. Once the massive wave of students finally clears out of the Grand Hall, Cheon spots Unsol casually standing behind. He sharply demands why the boy is lingering around. Looking genuinely puzzled, Unsol asks if he also needs to bounce. Cheon nods. He reminds the kid that his epic victory totally secured his spot to ascend into the advanced chamber. Shockingly, Unsol rejects the promotion, preferring to chill in the intermediate tier. Utterly baffled by this massive flex, Cheon demands a reason. The young warrior calmly explains that his entire arsenal only consists of the Fire Rain 13 forms. He literally hasn't absorbed any intermediate skills yet. Cheon's jaw drops. How could he master the Wild Beast path to perfectly counter Birok's ultimate strike, yet claim he knows absolutely nothing? Completely unfazed, Unsol stubbornly stands his ground about his empty skill set. Seeing the unbreakable fire in the boy's eyes, the master reluctantly caves. He agrees to pass down the legendary Fire Rain Thundering Sword, an insanely powerful upgrade to his basic forms. But Cheon flashes a deadly glare, warning that he despises arrogant rookies who fake weakness to look cool. He coldly threatens to slice the kid's head clean off if he discovers any hidden martial arts lurking behind those basic 13 forms. Fast forward 4 brutal days, Unsol is still sweating blood under Cheon's hellish, bone-crushing training regime. The veteran master meticulously dissects every single movement, finally confirming the shocking truth. This boy is completely stripped of any fundamental martial arts foundation. Despite being a total newbie to the blade, his monstrous focus and relentless drive are absolutely terrifying. Cheon stares at the burning desperation, etched into Unsol's glaring eyes. The kid trains like his very survival depends on it. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. This absolute madman truly devoured the Wild Beast path in a mere 14 days. Even crazier, Unsol is already manifesting the Thundering Sword aura. His monstrous learning curve defies logic. While the boy endlessly slashes away, Cheon suddenly barks at him to freeze. He announces that the core foundations of the technique have been fully absorbed. Unsol raises a suspicious eyebrow. The instructor elaborates that this specific martial art focuses on rapid, twisting footwork to seamlessly counter multiple incoming strikes. However, he drops a massive truth bomb, revealing these flashy forms are useless in actual life-or-death combat. Yet, the master's sharp eyes caught Unsol, injecting pure, venomous bloodlust into every single swing, practically hunting for a kill. Unsol looks completely dumbfounded. Doesn't a warrior strictly master the blade to slaughter enemies on the battlefield? The older swordsman heavily sighs, acknowledging that while dark demonic arts thrive on pure malice, reaching the absolute pinnacle of their righteous path requires shedding that vicious bloodlust. He warns the kid to mentally purge this heavy murderous aura immediately. If he fails to cleanse his mind, his own corrupted Ki will eventually destroy him from the inside out. A shocking realization hits Unsol like a truck. This is the exact same chilling warning Elder Jingok previously dropped. Cheon bitterly confesses his own dark history, admitting his toxic rage once drove him to butcher countless rivals. But that bloody path absolutely shattered his honor, completely ruining his martial foundations. The master drops another gem of wisdom. Lethal moves might create a powerful, intoxicating illusion of divine strength, but they are secretly massive roadblocks, choking off a swordsman's true awakening. With surprising fatherly warmth, he begs the fierce rookie to drop the heavy sword of vengeance. Hearing these haunting words, painful memories flood Unsol's mind. His wise grandfather once dropped a harsh reality check about the tragic fate of blade masters. He claimed their dark histories are permanently stained with suffocating despair and endless misery. That is precisely why Murim warriors keep their tragic backstories buried in absolute silence. Curious, the boy questions why his teacher is suddenly opening up. Qian softly smiles, wanting to prove that he also survived the suffocating darkness of pure killing intent. The instructor finally asks for his student's name. Upon hearing it, Qian's eyes widen in sheer disbelief. This is the legendary survivor of the second trial. That Jingak wouldn't stop hyping up, but Qian's face immediately darkens. He warns Unsol about a massive, looming disaster. When the confused kid presses for answers, the master brutally states the obvious. His foundational martial arts are completely non-existent. His elite rivals have been endlessly cultivating ki since childhood. Without establishing a solid core, the monumental power gap between them will only violently expand. Before stepping into the advanced chamber for the legendary Fire Rain Sword technique, Qian drops a massive reality check. Unsol must conquer the absolute basics first, forging an unbreakable foundation to even handle the Fire Rain Sword's sheer power. To make this happen, Qian decides to pass down his very own masterpiece, the unrivaled lightning and thunder arts. But there is a massive catch. Before they even start breathing, Qian reveals a chilling truth. He completely obliterated the nerve endings in his own fingers, while failing to master this exact move. The risk factor is absolutely insane, and if Unsol makes even one wrong move, his arms could be permanently paralyzed. One slip-up means his dreams of entering the advanced chamber vanish, leaving him completely crippled. With that heavy warning hanging in the air, Qian asks if he seriously wants to risk it all. Unsol doesn't even blink. He literally could not care less about losing his arms, ready to sacrifice his very soul, if it guarantees his absolute revenge. Fast forward one brutal month, and Unsol actually manages to conquer the unrivaled lightning and thunder arts, finally earning his golden ticket out of the intermediate chamber. Qian is completely blown away by his crazy fast progress, but our boy Unsol is frustrated, thinking he wasted way too much time. Now fully locked and loaded, it is finally time to crash the advanced league. The second he kicks open the doors to the advanced chamber, dead silence drops as all eyes lock onto him. Unsol instantly feels an intense, suffocating aura radiating from these elite trainees, which totally makes sense, since they already witnessed his monstrous potential firsthand. Unsol scoffs at the brutal irony, realizing society trashes honest undertakers while basically worshipping cold-blooded killers. The instructor snaps him back to reality, ordering him to grab a seat before the supreme lecture kicks off. Acknowledging the fresh blood in the room, the master declares he will break down the absolute core philosophy of the Fire Rain Sword alongside its sacred 7 teachings. He drops the first major key, stating true strength comes from perfectly balancing energy through every single muscle fiber to forge a god-tier, unbreakable stance. Staring at the complex scroll for a hot minute, Unsol realizes he would be completely lost right now if he had skipped that brutal intermediate training. Once the heavy theory crafting wraps up, the instructor singles Unsol out. He leads our main character straight to the secluded garden, hidden behind the main hall. The master drops a bombshell, claiming a true warrior can obliterate an armed enemy empty-handed. At that supreme level, he explains, a blade is literally useless for manifesting actual sword aura. Out of nowhere, the old man snaps off a flimsy tree branch, leveling it straight at Unsol's throat with a heavy question. He demands to know his exact survival strategy if a lethal strike comes flying and his hands are totally empty. The master casually reveals that while Unsol was stuck grinding in the lower tiers, his rivals already unlocked the shining mystique, the ultimate first strike of the Fire Rain Sword. That is why they are deep into the theory phase. The master makes it crystal clear that Unsol can kiss his training goodbye if he fails to grasp the true meaning of this test. With his entire future on the line, the master warns him to choose his words wisely. Taking a deep, grounding breath, Unsol locks eyes and declares that if he lacks a blade, he will just steal his enemy's weapon. Zero hesitation, he instantly lunges to snatch the branch right out of the master's grip, but before his fingers even graze a single leaf, the old man straight up teleports, manifesting right behind him like a ghost. The master scoffs, mocking his completely reckless and impatient answer. But Unsol totally zones out the lecture, his mind absolutely reeling, paralyzed by the sheer impossible speed the old man just pulled off. Refusing to back down, Unsol launches a fierce second attack, only to hit pure, empty air once again. Frustration starts boiling in his veins as he realizes he cannot read a single phantom movement the master makes. Sure, he never expected an easy win, but his pride takes a massive hit realizing he cannot even track the guy's shadow. Panic starts creeping in. Unsol knows his advanced chamber dreams will turn to dust if he does not deliver an absolute jaw-dropping performance right here, right now. Backed into a corner, he channels his ultimate trump card, the Wild Beast. Energy, pushing his limits to max capacity for one explosive burst. Eyes burning with resolve, he rockets toward the flimsy branch, but right at the moment of impact, a terrifying shockwave blasts him through the air. Sol violently slams into the dirt, his face painted with crushing defeat. But right before the despair fully sets in, the master closes the gap in a blink and firmly slaps his shoulder. A booming laugh echoes through the garden as the old man proudly declares he passed the ultimate test. Sol's jaw basically hits the floor. He literally did not land a single scratch, leaving his brain completely short-circuiting over how he somehow pulled out a win. Brushing off his visible shock, the master announces the legendary Shining Mystique training drops tomorrow. He orders the kid to show up at dawn, way before any of those elite rivals even wake up. A satisfied smirk crosses Sol's face. He bows deeply, thanking his master for the wisdom, before quietly stepping away. The moment he disappears, the master glares at the branch he is holding. Suddenly, shredded leaves crumble into dust. Sol never realized the truth. His strike had actually connected, but the veteran warrior deliberately blasted him backward, faking a complete failure. A heavy sigh escapes the master, utterly blown away by his raw talent. He realizes this boy is destined for absolute greatness. Meanwhile, Sol navigates the dense forest, deciding to circulate his inner energy, instead of sleeping. In this brutal world, death could strike at any second. Suddenly, hostile auras lock onto him. His beast-like instincts instantly map out the hidden enemies. 5 furious figures step out from the shadows, practically fuming with rage. They bark that his arrogant attitude in the intermediate chamber crossed the line, and now, they will violently humble him. Smirking endlessly, these punks proudly announce themselves as the legendary 5-Peak Swords, a squad of undeniable prodigies, ready to slaughter him right here. Sol does not even bother exchanging trash talk. He simply heightens his spiritual perception, detecting a far more terrifying presence, quietly observing them from the absolute darkness. Before the 5 fools can even draw their blades, a monstrous figure materializes behind them, instantly crushing the leader. The guy faceplants into the dirt from a single blow. Pure, icy terror paralyzes the remaining 4 as they slowly turn around. Standing there is Seo Jinha, an absolute beast of a trainee. Completely ignoring the trembling squad, Jinha orders Sol to talk. The remaining goons nervously demand to know why he interfered. Jinha just glares daggers at them, harshly commanding them to vanish, because they are nothing but annoying trash to him. Panicking, the 4 grab their unconscious buddy and practically teleport away, screaming hollow threats at Sol as they run. Sol narrows his eyes. Jinha's overwhelming aura is absolutely no joke. The moment the forest falls silent, Jinha locks eyes with Sol, preparing to drop a massively heavy question. A cold steel blade points straight at Sol's neck. Who exactly are you? The sudden interrogation leaves Sol completely baffled. Earlier today, the master had summoned Sol to demonstrate his martial arts. Gripping his hilt, Sol inhaled a slow, grounding breath before unleashing a flawless flurry of sword strikes. The blade danced beautifully for several minutes before he gracefully halted, leaving devastating, razor-sharp ravines carved right into the solid earth. Even the strict instructor stood there stunned, realizing that Sol had somehow merged the art with pure, blood-curdling killing intent. After that jaw-dropping display, the master called up the next student, none other than Seo Jinha. Marching onto the training grounds, he brushed past Sol, radiating a suffocating, demonic pressure. Supposed to demonstrate the fundamental strike of the blazing fire rain sword art, Jinha completely flipped the script. He unleashed a brutal move designed specifically to obliterate Sol's exact technique. Sol instantly registered that deadly, silent threat. Back in the present, staring down Jinha's blade, Sol calmly questions the meaning behind those words. Jinha erupts in furious shouts, convinced this kid is just playing a foolish game. Jinha fiercely declares he knows the dark truth about this island's inhabitants. Not everyone here truly cares about ascending as one of the 10 demon masters. That single sentence hits Sol like lightning. The pieces finally click. Being offered the legendary 10 demonic arts was miraculous, but the pacing felt incredibly unnatural. The entire setup was suspiciously sloppy. He instantly deduces that this grand program holds a sinister double meaning. This island is a massive trap, built to hunt down a specific target. Keeping his voice remarkably steady, Sol asks if there is a rat. Sol's unwavering gaze proves his absolute innocence. Hearing this sincerity, Jinha finally lowers his weapon, sliding it away. He mutters that Sol is clearly not his prey. Turning his back, Jinha delivers one last chilling warning. Stay in your lane, because further provocation means instant death. As the Shadow Warrior vanishes, a heavy realization crushes Sol. A terrifying political war is secretly boiling right beneath his feet. He gives himself a mental pass for being so incredibly blind, since his soul was entirely consumed by martial arts training. Shaking off the paranoia, Sol hardens his blazing resolve. No matter the enemy, he will simply crush anyone who stands in his way. Shortly after this intense encounter, the master summons everyone. Announcing their hellish training is over, he delivers a deeply moving, blood-pumping farewell speech, praying they survive the ruthless, chaotic world of the Murim. Out of nowhere, an enormous bell violently rings. While the disciples panic, the master orders an immediate march to Stone Mountain, dead in the heart of this cursed island. Mere minutes later, the massive crowd gathers at the rocky peak, staring up at the headmaster. Scanning the silent crowd, the Grandmaster verifies every survivor is present. His booming voice echoes across the mountain. The time has finally arrived to plunge straight into the horrific third trial. A massive wave of shock and frantic whispers rips through the young martial artists. The third trial? Everyone here was mentally preparing for the second phase. Only one person standing in this crowd secretly understands the terrifying truth. Instructor Jin Gok drops a massive bombshell. The living quarters are shutting down completely. No one is stepping foot back inside until the legendary 10 demon masters are crowned. He warns them to scavenge whatever gear they need from the caves before they lock down permanently. When a clueless rookie asks about the selection process, the head instructor simply shakes his head in utter disgust. He scoffs at their ignorance, surviving this hellish island for months, yet they still cannot grasp the brutal reality. No more games. The head instructor flat out commands them to slaughter one another. Hyuk declares an all-out bloodbath until exactly 10 survivors remain standing. How they shed that blood is entirely up to them. Running and hiding are totally valid tactics, but cowardice comes with a massive, deadly catch. As the clock ticks down, the safe zones will violently shrink, forcing everyone together. Anyone caught outside the shrinking perimeter gets executed by the killer demons, a squad of cloaked nightmares, radiating absolute menace. Cold sweat drips down Yunsol's face. The suffocating bloodlust pouring off those executioners is absolutely overwhelming. Their aura screams absolute martial arts mastery. Breaking the tension, a bold trainee suddenly asks Hyuk the unthinkable, can they hunt the killer demons themselves? Hyuk bursts into a maniacal laugh, genuinely thrilled by the sheer audacity. He loves that some ruthless candidates are aiming for the absolute peak. Hyuk happily grants them permission to engage and slaughter the enforcers. He drops a massive game changer for everyone. Anyone crazy enough to butcher a killer demon instantly secures a spot among the 10 demon masters. Reality quickly hits the crowd. Taking down those monstrous enforcers is basically a surefire death sentence. Slashing through fellow rookies is way easier. Hyuk reminds the bloodthirsty crowd that forging alliances is totally allowed. Backstabbing and brutal ambushes are heavily encouraged. There are 0 rules in this savage battle royale except one: survive and claim the title. Once dismissed, the desperate trainees raid the caves for weapons and supplies. The hunt begins. Unsol immediately bolts, ditching the main horde without a single second thought. He knows his insane progress during training painted a giant glowing target on his back. He anticipates a massive ambush, remembering how the arrogant Peak 5 tried to jump him back in the woods. Survival means securing a tactical stronghold, and the Wandering Pavilion is his perfect sanctuary. Arriving at the zone, he spots something. The dirt beneath him feels totally unfamiliar. Dropping to his knees, he intensely maps out the shifting terrain. Mid-investigation, his heightened instincts flare up. Footsteps are charging straight toward his exact position. A bloody guy bursts from the brush, desperately begging Yunsol to save him from a brutal execution squad. Yunsol grips his blade tightly, anticipating a deadly trap. The terrified runner promises a massive reward for his protection. If Yunsol fends off the pursuers, he gets a solid favor. He quickly analyzes the chaotic scene. His sharp eyes lock onto the runner's deep, nasty gashes. This guy is definitely not faking his near-death state. Yunsol steps up. He locks onto the 3 aggressive attackers, calculating if they are a coordinated hit squad. Though he hates drama, he refuses to let this random dude's mess blow his perfect stealth cover. Left with 0 options, Unsol violently yanks the bleeding guy straight into the hidden shadows. They dive into a concealed subterranean trench near the pavilion. The bloodthirsty trio storms in, utterly baffled by their vanishing act. The hunters nervously stalk the pavilion grounds, completely oblivious that their prey is breathing right beneath their boots. Scouring the perimeter and finding absolutely nothing, the frustrated squad finally gives up the intense chase. They march off to hunt elsewhere. Sensing the coast is crystal clear, Unsol and his makeshift ally finally crawl out of the dirt. The breathless survivor bows profusely, praising Unsol for saving him from the Grim Reaper. While the guy rambles his gratitude, Unsol tunes him out, deeply analyzing his recent sensory upgrade. Master Sawu totally engineered these hidden trenches specifically for him. Down in the absolute dark, his wild beast path instincts exploded, mapping the terrain for miles. The Earth's subtle vibrations painted a perfect radar. It felt like having X-ray vision through the soil. Sawu literally weaponized the ground's seismic waves for him. The saved dude finally drops his name, Gui Chilyong, proudly repping the notorious blood sect. Chilyong asks for a name, but gets totally ghosted. Unsol has zero time for campfire chats and immediately marches toward his next stronghold. Desperate to survive, Chilyong begs to tag along as his shadow. Guillaume claims Unsol is totally reliable, especially since he literally saved his neck earlier. Unsol gives him absolute dead silence, which Guillaume casually accepts as an invitation. Beaming with annoying excitement, he trails behind our main character like a desperate stray puppy, officially becoming his unwanted sidekick. After trekking for several minutes, Unsol suddenly presses his palm against the dirt, reading the subtle vibrations of the earth. Through this sensory mastery, he instantly detects an intense bloodbath, raging just up ahead, prompting him to suggest a completely different path to dodge the slaughter. Guillaume absolutely loses his mind over this insane tracking skill, begging to learn the technique. But our cold-blooded protagonist entirely tunes him out, marching right ahead. Out of nowhere, the wind carries a fighter's desperate scream, swearing brutal vengeance for his slaughtered comrades. Those heavy words strike Unsol like lightning, sending an intensely familiar chill straight down his spine. He immediately recognizes a fellow broken soul burning with that exact same thirst for payback. Catching Unsol's terrifying aura shift, Guillaume nervously asks what is going down. Cutting off his useless chatter, Unsol coldly declares that their travel plans have just changed. Our main character throws away the peaceful route, choosing to dive headfirst into the chaotic bloodshed. As they close in on the death zone, a stealthy assassin camouflaged in the branches locks onto Unsol, instantly launching a lethal ambush. Yet Unsol casually swats the blade away, absolutely shattering the arrogant attacker's ego. The panicked enemy screams, questioning how a non-assassin could effortlessly shatter their clan's ultimate forbidden concealment art. Unsol answers that ridiculous question with silence and a devastating horizontal slash, cleaving him completely in half. He mentally notes that the sneaky shadow arts would have been annoying without his wild beast path instincts. With the main massacre still raging, Unsol decides to crash the party, hoping to save the vengeful warrior, just to ask him what achieving true payback actually feels like. Right before the executioners deliver their killing blow, our boy manifests from the shadows like a demon. The surprise blitz paralyzes the squad, allowing Unsol to unleash a magnificent storm of lethal slashes. Suddenly, a sneaky rogue teleports directly behind him, aiming a decapitating strike, but our main character flawlessly evades death. In the blink of an eye, an entire kill squad surrounds him, yet their numbers mean nothing against his absolute ferocity. He mows them down, leaving just a single survivor trembling. As Unsol readies his blade, the battered warrior consumed by vengeance explodes from the blind spot, ruthlessly piercing the final target. Standing over the bloody corpse, a hauntingly beautiful smile stretches across his face, celebrating his violently fulfilled destiny. But instantly, his lifeless body collapses to the dirt before Unsol can extract a single answer. Creeping out from his pathetic hiding bush, Guillaume asks if the coast is clear. Naturally, Unsol completely ignores the rat, kneeling beside the fallen avenger to inspect his corpse. That is the exact moment Guillaume drops his mask, thrusting a treacherous dagger right at Unsol's spine. But you cannot backstab an apex predator. Unsol effortlessly deflects the cowardly strike without even turning around. Absolute shock shatters Guillaume's face as his perfect betrayal miserably fails. Unsol brutally shoves the traitor back, coldly scolding him for ruining his one golden opportunity to ask his desperately burning question. But Guillaume could care less about some philosophical nonsense. His brain is totally short-circuiting over how this monster actually predicted his flawless assassination plot. Smirking, Unsol casually drops the mic, revealing he saw through the facade since day one. Back in that dark underground shelter, his eagle eyes had already scanned the heavy arsenal of deadly weapons, strapped tightly beneath the rat's clothes. Plus, Guillaume's footwork was terribly rigid and incredibly stiff, weighed down by all that hidden steel. Unsol brutally admits he only dragged this trash along out of pure morbid curiosity. He simply wanted to observe if the dark art of deception was worth learning. Hearing he was just a lab rat, Guillaume completely snaps, screaming that this is impossible bluffing, since his acting skills are supposedly god tier. He unleashes a toxic rain of throwing stars, but our overpowered protagonist easily deflects the metal storm, plunging Guillaume into absolute despair. Cold, suffocating terror floods the traitor's veins as the horrifying truth hits him. This monster is literally reading his mind. In a literal flash, Unsol breaks the sound barrier, closing the massive gap in a split second, slicing straight into the coward's shoulder. Towering over him, Unsol coldly mocks that having premium legendary gear means absolutely nothing if your stealth is pure garbage. Driven by insane desperation, Guillaume launches one final, pathetic suicide charge, praying for a miraculous kill. Burning his life force, Guillaume rockets forward, but Unsol casually demonstrates the insurmountable difference in their realms by phasing right past him with a beautiful, fatal crescent slash. Staring at the fresh corpse, Unsol humbly admits that the skirmish was slightly draining, and the surprise attack might have been fatal if he had not spotted the arsenal earlier. He glances down at the traitor's severed head, noting those wide, terrified eyes, the exact same pathetic expression every dying loser makes. But across the blood-stained grass, the fallen avenger wears a peacefully triumphant smile in death, leaving Unsol quietly wondering if his own inevitable end will look that beautiful. Tasting sweet payback, Unseo claims his fallen rival's blade as a trophy before vanishing into the shadows. The dual-wielding era officially begins. But lurking in the dense brush, a mysterious shadow quietly tracks his victory. This stalker studies his every breath, fully calculating the lethal threat radiating from his brutal fighting style. The Watcher acknowledges his raw talent. Yet, without a massive power-up, this hellish island will absolutely chew him up. Fast forward to sunrise, and absolute chaos erupts. A relentless mob of bloodthirsty trainees hunts Yunseo down, desperate to eliminate him. Blood drips from fresh gashes across his body, but he pushes his limits, knowing these ruthless attackers refuse to show mercy. While sprinting for his absolute life, his mind races for a desperate escape route, completely unaware that the head instructor and Jin Gak are intensely watching from a towering mountain peak. The head instructor demands a status report, and Jin Gak quickly reveals that out of the 86 original trainees, only 41 are still breathing. A twisted smirk crosses the instructor's face, thrilled that 41 survivors actually remain, after 3 brutal days. Labeling the survivors as true elites, he declares it is finally time to push their absolute limits. Meanwhile, Seol frantically binds his daggers together. Just as the mob closes in, he launches his blades backward, blasting an attacker away, and carving out a desperate opening. But reality hits Seol hard. His survival odds drop to 0 if he stays in this wide-open bloodbath. Trusting his hardcore combat instincts, he instantly shifts gears to manipulate the battlefield and flip the terrible odds. Seol sprints wildly toward the Fire Rain sect building, completely oblivious to the fact that the head instructor just marked that exact zone for restriction. Seol crashes safely through the main entrance, dripping a fresh blood trail to bait his hunters. The savage pack tracks him straight into a suffocating hallway, convinced their prey is totally cornered, until Seol materializes from the shadows. He swings for a clean, brutal decapitation, but the grunt barely parries the strike, screaming a warning to his squad. Smirking with fake, unearned confidence, the thug mocks him, claiming they aren't stupid enough to fall for rookie stealth tactics. Steel clashes wildly as a savage duel erupts, but Seol effortlessly reads the sloppy sword paths, weaving through the deadly strikes like water. Catching the perfect opening, Seol unleashes a flawless, lightning-fast counterattack. He puts his entire soul into the heavy swing, slicing the enemy's head clean off his shoulders. Blazing with absolute fury, the rest of the mob swarms Seol all at once, only to realize this claustrophobic corridor completely cripples their overwhelming numbers. Seol, however, is in his absolute element, dominating the shadows and thriving in the brutal close-quarters chaos. Taking total control of the battlefield's rhythm, he effortlessly torments his attackers. Scanning the bloody scene, Seol calculates a flawless victory if he forces them into a series of one-on-one executions. Panicking that the shadow-dwelling demon is picking them apart one by one, a desperate, sweaty grunt wildly lashes his whip weapon, violently ricocheting it off the stone walls. The lethal strike nearly connects, but he leaps out of the kill zone just in time, thrilled that they finally flush the protagonist. Out of the bottleneck, the remaining goons rush outward, only to crash straight into a terrifying, immovable roadblock. Their elite team leader stands there, oozing monstrous bloodlust and absolute disgust at his cowardly, retreating squad. The pathetic crew stammers out excuses, swearing they were just repositioning for a better tactical strike. The captain tunes out their whining, and with one devastating flick of his weapon, decapitates them all, painting the hallway crimson. He coldly spits on their graves, ranting about how he always hated carrying such useless trash on his elite squad. With the weaklings utterly wiped out, Seol suddenly steps up, locking eyes with the terrifying boss. Acknowledging the boy's lethal talent, the monster formally introduces himself as Wu Mun Qiang. He demands the protagonist's name, but Seol coldly ignores him, only caring if this arrogant man is the actual shot caller, which instantly triggers Wu's explosive ego. Spitting pure venom, Wu declares name-dropping is completely useless for a walking corpse. Wu unleashes his wicked whip to ensnare the blade, and before Seol can even blink, his trusty weapon spectacularly shatters. Bursting into unhinged laughter, Wu mercilessly roasts Seol, mocking his pathetic, one-trick defense arts. A chilling realization washes over Seol. This absolute monster has completely memorized his legendary Shining Mystique technique. But how is that even possible? Seol's mind races, suspecting this tyrant runs an insanely deep intelligence network, operating completely in the shadows. Catching the boy zoning out in mid-battle, Wu's predator instincts flare up, and he lunges for the instant kill. Seol narrowly escapes the devastating strike, watching in sheer horror as the monstrous whip pulverizes everything in its path. Seol instantly realizes this tight corridor is practically a death sentence, so he desperately bolts toward the massive main hall. Drawing his backup blade, he braces for an epic, all-out war, but a shockwave from Wu's monstrous swing violently blasts him backward. Stepping out from the eerie shadows, Wu sighs with deep disappointment, crying about how easily the kid is crumbling. He lashes his whip with insane speed, and in a split second, the iron-like coils completely bind Seol. Smiling like a true villain, Wu whispers that the game is officially over. Seol realizes his shining mystique can theoretically tank the hits, but his aura severely lacks the explosive firepower needed to totally shatter the bind. A profound epiphany strikes him. Survival demands a completely new, devastatingly destructive art, a strike sharp enough to sever steel. As the lethal whip completely coils around Seol, Wu smirks, convinced victory is his. But a chilling shift in the atmosphere reveals Seol is brewing a desperate counterattack. Still, Wu's arrogant grin doesn't waver. He assumes the kid is just relying on that basic shining mystique, but that cocky smirk instantly shatters into pure terror when Seol absolutely obliterates the spatial trap. A blinding golden aura erupts, unleashing the devastating, legendary, lightning and thunder art passed down by Wu. Before Wu can even blink, our boy closes the distance, riding a shockwave of absolute destruction. Faster than a heartbeat, Seol phases right past him, executing a flawless, lethal slash, a strike so fast Wu only feels the delayed sting. His life force instantly evaporates, and his lifeless corpse hits the dirt. With his enemy defeated, the brutal recoil of that ultimate technique finally hits Seol, forcing a violent cough of dark blood. It's an insanely overpowered move, but Seol quickly grasps a harsh truth. He can't spam this ability. His current vessel is just too weak. Still, surviving this deathmatch is a massive win. Time is ticking though, and he knows these ever-shifting danger zones are about to reset, demanding an immediate escape. But suddenly, a bone-chilling, suffocating pressure looms behind him. He slowly turns, only to lock eyes with a monstrous killer demon. Pure dread paralyzes Seol's veins. His mind rejects the sheer horror standing right there. The terrifying reality hits him like a truck. The danger zone boundaries definitely shifted during his all-out brawl with those goons. Sweating bullets, he desperately calculates his odds of a peaceful exit. Since he didn't actually trigger the boundary alert, by running like a coward, maybe there's hope. He cautiously slides 1 foot back, never breaking eye contact with the beast, and when the monster stands completely still, a false sense of security washes over him. He actually thinks he's getting off the hook. Wasting 0 seconds, he bolts. He sprints straight past the towering demon, but the exact split second he crosses its shadow, his primal beast instincts scream bloody murder. A horrifying premonition flashes, his own decapitation. Seol desperately twists his entire body, just barely dodging a fatal neck slice. Pure panic grips his soul. The terrifying part? He didn't even feel a single shift in the demon's stance. Without those awakened survival instincts, he would literally be a headless corpse right now. The truth hits hard. That tranquil expression is nothing but a deadly trap. The absolute millisecond he tries to escape, this absolute unit will strike. A crucial lesson from Master Wu echoes in his mind regarding apex predators and helpless prey. He recalls that hunters deeply struggle to lock onto targets moving in erratic, zigzagging patterns. Yet, the predator inevitably wins the chase. Why? Because those frantic evasions eventually fall into a predictable rhythm, creating a fatal opening for the carnivore to strike. Realizing that falling into a pattern equals instant death, Seol unleashes a battle roar. He completely abandons logic, throwing his body into the most chaotic, unpredictable footwork imaginable. The desperate gambit begins. His bizarre opening maneuver actually ghosts the demon's lethal strike, sparking genuine surprise in the monster's eyes. He baits with a basic zigzag, but the second the demon anticipates the path, Seol seamlessly pivots into his chaotic beast trajectory. It's a flawless dance. But right before executing his final escape dash, an icy chill freezes his spine. The demon's blade is already kissing his throat. Cold sweat pours down his trembling face. It's checkmate. He's hopelessly outclassed. But then, a miracle happens. The executioner completely halts his blade, instead of taking his head. Panting heavily, Seol glances at his surroundings, noticing he has successfully breached the boundary line. Catching his breath, our boy mentally replays that nightmarish encounter, recognizing a crushing truth. Despite burning every ounce of his energy, he couldn't create even a microscopic opening. Walking away from death's door, the true, brutal essence of the martial arts world finally sinks in. He was nothing but a clueless frog in a tiny well. The power gap was insurmountable. Retreating to a secure zone, Yunsol deeply analyzes that overwhelming aura. It suddenly clicks. That terrifying monster's combat prowess easily rivals the shadowy figure who murdered his grandfather. The grim reality sets in. He must violently shatter his limits and eclipse that absolute beast's strength to survive this world. But wait, a chilling voice suddenly echoes from the shadows, casually claiming he's been hunting him down. Yunsol spins around, locking eyes with a mysterious figure chilling on a boulder, who arrogantly brings up Yunsol's secret beast techniques. Hearing this highly classified info, our protagonist instantly deduces that his stats and abilities have been heavily leaked. The stranger considers dropping his name, but mercilessly smirks, declaring the kid a dead man walking. Why introduce yourself to a corpse, right? The assassin explodes forward with lethal intent. Yet, Yunsol stands completely unfazed, effortlessly swaying like a phantom to evade the lethal strike. The attacker's eyes widen in genuine shock, totally amazed, using those awakened primal instincts. He openly acknowledges that Yunsol holds the terrifying potential to evolve into a legendary demon master, someday soon, and that is exactly why this prodigy must be erased right now. The assassin aggressively shifts his combat stance. The opponent's arrogant tone triggers a sudden, explosive realization in Yunsol's mind, but hesitation means death on this battlefield. Shaking off the distraction, he desperately parries a lethal strike, and a bizarre, bone-rattling shockwave surges through his blade. Trading a few more furious blows, Yunsol's eyes widen as the pieces connect. He instantly recalls a mangled corpse he examined alongside his grandfather, where the old man chillingly revealed the victim was slaughtered by the Hebei Feng clan's 5 tiger-severing blades. The terrifying proof? Not a single scratch on the victim's skin, yet every internal bone was pulverized into dust. His grandfather explained their deadly secret. They channel destructive chi directly into the enemy's bloodstream, the exact second their weapons clash. Armed with this crucial intel, Yunsol smirks and exposes his attacker, loudly mocking the fighter for wielding the signature, terrifying arts of the infamous Hebei Feng family. The arrogant warrior freezes in absolute shock. He desperately demands to know how a mere kid recognized his secret. You see, this martial art relies heavily on a foundational chi manipulation skill known as the absolute absorption technique. It acts like an inescapable black hole, violently twisting the enemy's blade off course. And once their guard breaks, they swoop in for a flawless, brutal execution. Back in the day, a mesmerized younger Yunsol was completely blown away by this immense knowledge. He eagerly asked his wise grandfather if the Hebei Feng family reigned supreme over the Murim world. The elder chuckled, noting that while their fighting style is incredibly lethal, it carries a massive, fatal flaw. They must step into dangerously close combat range. Smelling blood in the water, Yunsol plots to weaponize this exact weakness. He aggressively charges forward, forcing the Feng warrior to brace for impact. Spewing righteous clan propaganda, Feng aggressively vows to eradicate every single demonic seedling from existence before they can blossom into full-blown monsters. But right before their blades cross, Yunsol violently slams his sword into the dirt. Feng assumes the kid has completely lost his mind, but pure panic sets in as Yunsol swiftly dodges into his blind spot. Bam! A devastating gut kick sends the arrogant warrior flying backward in agonizing pain. Smoothly retrieving his grounded weapon, Yunsol flashes a confident smirk. His trap worked perfectly. Still, the young protagonist stays razor-sharp, aware that a simple kick barely scratched his seasoned opponent's health bar. Yet, fear is totally absent, because he never expected to defeat a lifelong martial arts master with just a basic, cheap fake-out. Instead, he is hyped to have cracked the enemy's combat pattern. Remembering his advanced chamber instructor's advice, he recalls the core lesson: let the enemy strike first to reveal their hand. In a flash of blinding speed, Feng viciously lunges, but rather than panicking, Yunsol completely surrenders to the attack's momentum, planning to fiercely hijack its trajectory. At the absolute final microsecond, he flawlessly redirects the energy, narrowly missing Feng's skull. Pure terror grips the veteran, as a chilling realization hits. This absolute menace is weaponizing his own clan's secret technique against him. Feng's brain practically short-circuits in heavy denial. The magnetic chi vortex he unleashed packs enough raw gravitational force to drag a massive boulder across a courtyard. It is a legendary move that usually leaves even the most elite swordsman completely defenseless. There is absolutely zero chance a total rookie possesses the god-tier instincts to shatter it. Fueled by pure desperation, Feng violently lunges again, cranking his chi absorption to absolute max power. But this massive ego trip only acts as a heavy turbo boost for Yunsol. Seizing the ultimate advantage, Yunsol swings for a lethal finisher, but the veteran miraculously twists out of the danger zone. Having heavily anticipated the counter, Feng abruptly cancels his vortex aura, throwing the young protagonist totally off balance. With a highly arrogant sneer, he mocks Yunsol, declaring he doesn't need fancy parlor tricks to slaughter a child. Feng explodes forward, relying purely on raw physical speed, completely abandoning his aura. But, spoiler alert, this is what Unsol wanted. The instant the enemy enters his strike zone, Unsol unleashes the Fire Rain Sword's devastating first form, Shining Mystique, slicing right through him. Joining the long list of defeated foes, Feng falls to his knees, utterly paralyzed by the breathtaking martial art he just witnessed. In an absolute stroke of genius, Unsol had forcefully evolved the historically defensive Shining Mystique straight into a hyper-aggressive kill strike. Despite the massive risk of heavy internal backlash, even the defeated Feng cannot deny the kid's terrifying battle intelligence. Sheathing his weapon, Unsol coldly turns away, leaving the baffled warrior wondering why he is still alive. Staring blankly ahead, Unsol brutally states that Feng simply isn't important enough to be part of his grand revenge plot. He frantically swears they will never meet again. But as Unsol leaves, a horrifying shadow silently materializes behind Feng. Revealed as a terrifying demonic assassin, Feng locks eyes with the shadow, questioning if his execution day has arrived. The phantom strikes a chilling grin, mocking how the righteous Orthodox faction squeezed every last drop of usefulness from his pathetic life. Feng freezes in pure shock. How does this monster know about his Orthodox roots? The shadowy killer merely scoffs at his panic. He sneers, warning Feng that underestimating the legendary Demon Palace is a fatal mistake. A blade flashes in the darkness, instantly silencing Feng forever. Meanwhile, So Jinha finds himself trapped in a brutal deathmatch. Surrounded by bloodthirsty, hellish faction trainees, tragedy strikes. A venomous strike pierces his defenses, rapidly infecting his bloodstream with lethal toxins. 95% of his combat aura instantly evaporates. The smirking enemies taunt him, declaring he is already a walking corpse without hope. Unless he forcefully rips the cure from their cold, dead hands, he is doomed. Jinha grinds his teeth, realizing the bitter truth. Playing the lone wolf was a massive miscalculation. This hit squad moves with terrifying precision, leaving zero openings for escape. But surrender is never an option. Jinha forcefully grips his blade with his left hand, preparing for a desperate final stand. A rival mockingly applauds his stubbornness, admitting Jinha possesses monstrous talent, yet they cruelly laugh off his pathetic final attempt. A natural right-handed prodigy cannot master a left-handed sword art in seconds. Barking at him to die quietly, the assassins launch a ruthless rush. Bloodlust fills the air as they aim for the kill. Jinha desperately braces for impact, but his nightmare quickly spirals out of control. A second venomous needle strikes his flesh. Reality hits like a freight train. Without that cure, his life ends in exactly 10 agonizing minutes. The fiery spark leaves his eyes. Accepting his grim fate, Jinha slowly lowers his blade, bracing for the brutal butchering about to unfold. Out of nowhere, the lead attacker crumbles to the dirt, completely lifeless. Panic instantly grips the remaining assassins. An unknown apex predator is lurking in the shadows. Before they can even process the threat, Unseol materializes right behind them like a ghost. Radiating pure, suffocating malice, Unseol unleashes a flurry of blindingly fast strikes, perfectly slaughtering the squad with absolute precision. In a literal heartbeat, Unseol stands victorious in a gruesome sea of freshly slaughtered corpses. Absolute terror paralyzes Jinha's soul. The Grim Reaper approaches. Desperate for survival, Jinha pleads for mercy, frantically swearing that he poses zero threat to this overwhelming monster. Utterly unfazed, Unseol treats him like empty air, kneeling beside a mangled corpse to violently ransack its blood-soaked pockets. He was hunting for the poison's cure all along. Gripping the tiny vial, a rare glimmer of relief washes over Unseol's stoic face. This cure is his trump card against the hellish Blood Castle forces. Just as he turns his back to vanish, Jinha desperately calls out. Coughing up black blood, Jinha begs for the antidote, revealing his 10-minute death timer. Unseol slowly pivots, his eyes devoid of human warmth. His voice drops to a freezing whisper. His ultimate goal is total annihilation of every participant, and Jinha is definitely on that hit list. The only reason his head is still attached is because the venom is already doing the dirty work. A chilling realization crashes over Jinha. To this cold-blooded demon, Jinha is just another meaningless obstacle destined for the grave. Pushed to the absolute edge of despair, Jinha plays his final card, offering an absolute alliance in exchange for that precious vial. Unseol tilts his head, demanding one solid reason. Fighting for his life, Jinha spills critical intel. Roughly 20 elite trainees remain, but they have forged massive, coordinated hunting packs. Even a beast like Unseol cannot survive a relentless jumping from 20 warriors. Desperate, Jinha offers an irresistible deal. He pledges to expose every fatal flaw within the enemy formations for a drop of mercy. Furthermore, Jinha swears a blood oath of absolute loyalty, promising never to backstab his savior. The silence stretches as Unseol processes the risky gamble. Looking deep into Jinha's desperate eyes, Unseol senses zero deception. This guy is simply too straightforward to pull off a treacherous scheme. Doubling down on his fierce promise, Jinha vows to be the ultimate meat shield and ally until the bitter, bloody end. The icy wall breaks. Unseol nonchalantly tosses the life-saving vial through the air. Catching his salvation, Jinha does not waste a single millisecond. He aggressively dumps the mystic powder directly onto his rotting flesh. Suddenly, the catastrophic chime of a new safe zone restriction echoes through the sky. Unseol's aura instantly spikes. He violently commands Jinha to move his feet right now. Utterly bewildered, Jinha points out they are perfectly safe here. Unseol furiously barks at him to use his freaking brain for once. The map is shrinking incredibly fast. With the death zone closing in and their current spot remaining completely untouched by the lethal barrier, it screams an absolute death trap. Every single surviving squad is about to forcefully bottleneck directly into their exact coordinates. Speak of the devil. A menacing circle of elite killers suddenly drops from the trees, boxing them into a hopeless corner. They are officially trapped. Scanning the bloodthirsty crowd with razor-sharp focus, Unseol's deadly gaze locks onto a specific, incredibly dangerous presence. A monstrous aura radiates from a lone warrior. Sporting a striking red headband, his eyes hold the chilling emptiness of an absolute apex predator. This chaotic alliance of rival factions reaches a rapid, brutal consensus. A rival smirks, suggesting they brutally massacre Unseol and Jinha immediately. Clear the trash first, then settle their own scores. Shockingly, a heavy tension fills the air. Every single killer recognizes Jinha's legendary face. Analyzing the enemy's terrifying skill sets, the duo realizes they are backed into a deadly corner. Jinha desperately grabs the antidote vial Unseol handed him earlier. Pulling a massive brain play, he hurls the powder at their pursuers, screaming that it is a lethal toxin straight from the hellish blood castle. A thick veil of purple dust instantly swallows the battlefield, sending the terrified assassins scrambling to cover their faces. While the enemies panic over the fake deadly gas, Unseol and Jinha blast out of there at top speed. But the illusion shatters fast. One sharp-eyed grunt realizes they have been totally played, shouting to the squad that the toxic threat is completely fake. Even so, Jinha smirks. The bluff worked flawlessly, leaving behind a perfect smokescreen to mask their escape. Unseol's tactical mind is already racing 10 steps ahead. He knows fighting a whole squad in an open space is absolute suicide. They need a choke point. He immediately pictures a specific cavern layout, and like they share a telepathic link, Jinha completely reads his aura. Unseol commands his partner to stick close, rushing toward a hidden cave system. He is actually leading them straight to his old training quarters, the ultimate geographical advantage for a bloodbath. Jinha is blown away by his comrade's razor-sharp battle IQ. The duo charges toward the rocky sanctuary, but their master plan instantly crumbles into dust. As a heavy, unnatural fog blankets the entrance, the cavern has been locked down as a strict dead zone. Elite killer demons form an impenetrable human wall, suffocating any chance of entry. Unseol's eyes narrow. The top brass are watching, and they purposely blocked this escape route just to force a brutal deathmatch for their twisted entertainment. Cold sweat drips down Jinha's face as panic sets in. He frantically asks for a miracle, but Unseol states that the terrifying demons are bound by the rules. They will not strike unless someone steps into the fog. Backed against a literal wall of executioners, Unseol weaponizes their disadvantage, using the terrifying boundary to guard their blind spots. Embracing the grim reality, the two warriors draw their blades for an apocalyptic showdown. The murderous hit squad finally breaches the clearing, absolute fury blazing in their eyes after being played for absolute fools. Wasting zero time on trash talk, the horde surges forward with explosive bloodlust, aiming for an instant slaughter. High above the chaos, the head instructor observes, smirking, as he realizes this bloodbath will crown the future 10 demon masters. A storm of deadly throwing knives rains down on Unseol, but he weaves through the lethal steel like a ghost, closing the gap instantly. He violently strikes down the assassin, while on the flip side, Jinha unleashes his own devastating aura, proving he is not just some weak sidekick. Out of nowhere, a massive projectile screams toward Jinha, violently knocking him off balance. The overwhelming pressure forces the two comrades to smash their backs together once more, completely encircled by a tidal wave of bloodthirsty enemies. Staring straight into the jaws of the Reaper, Jinha accepts his grim fate, proudly declaring that he has zero regrets after fighting this hard. But those exact words trigger something deep inside Unseol's soul. The stark contrast in their destinies hits him like lightning. If he falls in this dirt today, His grandfather's tragic death will forever remain unavenged. That devastating truth shatters his mental limiters, completely erasing his fear and forcing him to brutally lock in. The prey instantly transforms into the apex predator, and the first two grunts charging at him step straight into a meat grinder. His blade flashes with godlike speed, executing them and pivoting to his next victim before Jinha can even blink. The aura at Jinha's back vanishes. Unsol alters his entire stance, carving through armored bodies like wet paper. Absolute terror grips the remaining assassins. This monstrous, unknown sword art is completely rewriting the rules of combat. Recognizing the ultimate raid boss in the room, the mob completely ignores Jinha. They swarm the lethal swordsman, but Unsol has already tapped into the zone. His primal, beast-like instincts explode to the surface. Channeling Sawu's legendary combat flow, his movements become terrifyingly unpredictable. The panicked mob can only watch in horror. As their comrades fly like broken ragdolls, he moves faster than humanly possible. Up above, the veteran instructor drops his jaw in sheer disbelief. A mere rookie is unleashing the footwork of a grandmaster. Unsol unleashes a hurricane of devastation until a monstrous, heavy-handed strike blindsides him from the shadows. His primal reflexes allow a last-second block with his blade, but the overwhelming kinetic impact shatters his steel to pieces, launching him backward like a cannonball. Jinna's heart drops into his stomach as he sees the crash site, screaming for his brother to get up. Vision spinning from the massive concussion, Unsol shakes off the blow, only to realize he crossed the fatal boundary into the cursed fog. Pure dread washes over his face, and as he slowly looks up, a towering killer demon glares down, raising its blade to deliver a brutal, instant execution. At the absolute last second, the head instructor barks a desperate command. The killer demon reaches for Unsol, but Sawu instantly materializes behind the monster. A cold blade presses against its throat, securing Unsol's survival. Unsol locks eyes with his master one final time before the world fades to pitch black. Panic erupts. The head instructor roars at the top of his lungs, demanding the head physician immediately save the boy's life. Jin Gok angrily protests this blatant rule-breaking, claiming the trial cannot be paused. But the head instructor completely brushes him off, vowing to shoulder all the blame. Deep down, the man is absolutely thrilled. He has finally discovered the flawless diamond he has been searching for. He knows in his gut that Unsol is destined to rule as one of the 10 demon masters. Later, Elder Hua Wuyong confronts the rogue instructor, demanding to know why he totally derailed their grandmaster plan. They were only supposed to crown 10 demon masters, plus 2 elite geniuses to act as their personal spies. The strict quota was 12 survivors, yet he boldly ended the bloodbath with 14, fully embracing the brutal punishment coming his way. Unfazed, the head instructor looks Hua dead in the eye, declaring he is ready to face whatever hellish consequences await. Hua sweats over how the terrifying emissaries from the 10 demonic sects will react, but the instructor just smirks, promising those 10 executives will recognize Unsol's insane potential too. Sometime later, Unsol blinks awake in an unfamiliar, quiet room. The heavy scent of herbal medicine fills the air. He quickly realizes he has been moved to a recovery ward. Checking his vitals, he is left speechless. Every single wound, even his severe internal damage, has vanished without a trace. He is utterly blown away. He never expected the medical staff at the Demon Palace to possess such god-tier skills. Regaining his footing, he steps into the grand hallway. A waiting attendant immediately bows and requests him to follow along. The guide escorts him to the main hall. Unsol's jaw practically drops at the breathtaking, majestic architecture surrounding him. He asks the guy for their exact location and gets a chilling reply. They are standing directly in the heart of Hell Island. The realization hits him like a truck. No wonder he didn't recognize it. This massive fortress is a highly restricted zone. After settling in, the polite attendant asks if the young master would like anything to eat. Unsol simply requests 2 hot bowls of noodles. They arrive steaming moments later, bringing back a wave of heavy nostalgia. It was a comforting meal he used to share with his late grandfather. But just as he grabs his chopsticks, Jinha crashes the party. He arrogantly teases Unsol about eating 2 portions, clearly still keeping his rival at arm's length. Annoyed, Unsol demands to know what he wants. Jinha hesitates, swallows his pride, and actually thanks Unsol for saving him. He bluntly admits he would be a corpse right now if Unsol hadn't intervened. Unsol tries to brush off the praise, but Jinha drops a heavy truth bomb. Only 12 trainees were destined to survive that bloodbath. Because the head instructor broke the rules for Unsol, Jinha miraculously slipped past death as well. Unsol's eyes widen in pure shock. But the real kicker? He has been unconscious in that bed for 4 entire days. He thought he just took a quick nap. Jinha smirks, revealing Unsol was incredibly lucky to be treated by the legendary mad physician. This guy is undisputed as the greatest healer alive. However, After tragically failing to save the love of his life, his mind completely shattered. Now, he operates as a chaotic miracle worker, capable of reviving literally anyone, as long as their heart is still beating. Hearing this, Unsol feels a deep sense of awe and immense gratitude. Uninvited, Jinha steals the second bowl, casually slurping while spilling more classified sect secrets. He reveals a terrifying truth. Those killer demons were actually undercover masters from the 10 demonic sects, and now, those powerful factions are arriving to draft their new heirs. Unsol narrows his eyes, asking his rival if he knows why the strict head instructor protected him. Jinha chuckles, saying he was just about to ask that exact question. The big boss was acting way too desperate to secure Unsol a spot among the elite 10 demon masters. Jinha highly suspects Unsol has secret family ties or a hidden history with the man. Unsol immediately shuts down the rumors, swearing he has never met the guy before in his life. Learning about the brutal punishment the instructor is facing, Unsol's mind races. Why would a total stranger risk absolutely everything, including his own life, just to save a rookie? Suddenly, an ear-piercing gong shatters the silence. The legendary executives of the 10 demonic sects have finally touched down. The trainees scramble into formation, trembling as these absolute monsters stride inside, radiating terrifying aura. Wasting zero time, Balsa, the sinister vice master of the necromancer sect, steps into the spotlight. He locks eyes with a trainee named Yang Munho, demanding he join their dark ranks. But Yang hesitates, visibly sweating. Yang spent his whole life gripping a sword, never even touching a spear. But Bulsa brushes that off like absolute dust. Why? Because the kid's literal DNA was forged for one thing, the legendary necromancy spear. Bulsa drops the hard truth. The blade only chained down Yang's true, monstrous potential. The spear is his actual destiny. Mind completely blown, Yang eagerly chases after his new master. Next up is Jock Johann, the terrifying vice master of the hellish blood castle. Out of nowhere, Jock calls Jinha's name. The dude is utterly shell-shocked. Jinha is stunned. Why would a legendary poison master want him, a so-called sword prodigy? He spent his childhood mastering blades, not brewing toxic arts in some bloody castle. Jock smirks. The deadliest venom isn't a liquid, it's a corrupted heart. Before the third trial, Jinha manipulated a hellish castle girl to slaughter the other recruits, and when that plot crumbled, he ruthlessly silenced her forever. Panicking, Jinha scrambles to defend his savage actions. But Jock just laughs. He isn't mad at all. In fact, he absolutely loves that Jinha possesses the cold-blooded drive to massacre anyone in his way. Jock drops a reality check. The sword will never make him a Murim legend. His true, twisted talent lies strictly in poison. Flashing back to Unsol's god-tier blade skills as an absolute rookie, Jinha's ego shatters. He realizes his sword talent is total garbage in comparison. Defeated but hungry for power, he accepts the hellish castle invite. Suddenly, the absolute apex predator steps up. Weehogun, the most feared monster of the demonic path and the pride of the Fire Rain Sword sect. Suffocating pressure fills the room. Everyone holds their breath, desperate to see who this titan will claim. The room drops dead silent when Y calls Unsol's name. The legend himself is hyped to witness the rookie's insane potential. But as the titan turns his back, Unsol does the absolute unthinkable. He coldly rejects the Fire Rain Sword sect right to Y's face. Y freezes. Did this punk just stutter? Blazing fury erupts from the demon master's very soul. A crushing wave of demonic aura slams Unsol to his knees. But the kid bites back the pain, growling that it's his right to refuse. Eyes glowing with malice, Y demands to know his alternative. Unsol smirks. He is choosing the Wandering Beast Pavilion. Y's blood literally boils. That place is absolute garbage. The Titan thinks this rookie is mocking his legendary faction. Murderous intent crushes down like a mountain. In that agonizing split second, Unsol truly understands why this man rules the demonic path. But suddenly, the suffocating gravity vanishes. Sawu steps in, totally blocking Wii's apocalyptic pressure. This ultimate disrespect pushes Wii over the edge. A pathetic pavilion master daring to challenge him? The demonic aura skyrockets to catastrophic levels. Sawu slightly flinches, his hand instinctively resting on his hilt. The entire room goes into a massive panic. Is this guy insane? He is literally about to draw his blade against the undisputed king of the demons. Voice dripping with venom, Y warns Sawu to back down, threatening him with total annihilation. A nearby vice master quickly realizes this clash will literally slaughter every trainee in the room. He desperately jumps into the crossfire to stop the bloodbath. Just as demonic steel begins to slide from its scabbard, the brave vice master physically shoves the blade back in, begging the Titan to calm down. It is Dan Shion, the peacemaker, of the Wandering Beast sect. He pleads for mercy to save the kid's life. The other elders frantically join in, begging the supreme swordsman to hold his wrath. After a tense, agonizing silence, Wee finally sneers, tossing the rookie to the trash pavilion. Sawu immediately grabs Unsol, signaling a hyper-fast retreat, before the demon lord snaps again. Cold sweat drips down Unsol's face. He felt the Reaper's breath. Wai was absolutely going to erase him from existence. Escaping the palace, Sawu flashes a proud grin, praising the kid's insane guts. Soon, they finally reach the infamous Wandering Beast Pavilion, but it's a bustling, vibrant village. Unsol's jaw drops, completely shattering his expectations of a dark martial sect. Expecting a grim atmosphere, Unsol is completely thrown off by the bright, bustling village. Dan catches his bewildered expression and casually explains their unique vibe. Unlike stuck-up orthodox sects, they survive on pure self-reliance. But something feels off. Unsol glances around and asks the obvious question, where are all the young people? Dan doesn't sugarcoat it. Thanks to their hellish training, the rookies either sprinted for the hills or literally dropped dead. Scanning the area, Dan points to a busted-up, ancient cabin. Welcome to your new penthouse, kid. If the roof caves in, he's on his own. He just needs to hit up Wungol, the local blacksmith, for tools. With the grand tour over, Dan turns to Sawu. Their time here is up, and they need to roll out. Unsol's eyes widen. Wait, Sawu isn't staying? Dan drops a heavy reality check on the rookie. As the secret pavilion master, Sawu severely overstepped his bounds by clashing with the legendary sword demon. He broke the ultimate taboo just to keep Unsol breathing, and now, he must face the music. Guilt hits Unsol like a truck, but Sawu just laughs it off, delivering a hearty smack to Unsol's back. He claims it's barely a slap on the wrist. He warns the kid to stay focused while he's gone. Once Sawu fades into the distance, Dan's tone shifts to dead serious. He makes it crystal clear Unsol might hold the title of a 10-demon master, but he is nowhere near being an official disciple of the terrifying Wandering Beast Pavilion. Why? Because this faction absolutely despises weakness. Desperate for answers, Unsol demands to know how to prove his worth. Dan just smirks, brushing off the question. Unlike rigid orthodox factions, they don't care about annoying politics or pointless rules. There are no blood oaths or mandatory loyalty pledges here. The only rule that matters is surviving the martial arts training. Gain absolute power, and the title is yours. Dan then drops a massive bombshell on the young rookie. Every single monster in this village is a potential master. But convincing these legends to actually teach him? That's entirely on Unsol. Fast forward to sunrise. Unsol is already fighting for his life, scaling the monstrous Iron Peak. Dan gave him one mission, reach the summit, and find the eccentric master who holds the ultimate internal energy cultivation manual. Muscles screaming and drenched in sweat, he finally conquers the cliff. But what awaits him at the peak leaves him speechless. A menacing, bald-headed monk is sitting right there. The sheer, suffocating aura radiating off this guy nearly blasts Unsol off the mountain. Gritting his teeth, Unsol holds his ground. He bows respectfully, dropping his name and his desperate plea for power. The monk slowly opens his eyes, asking why a kid with such a terrifying cultivation base is begging for more. Unsol's brain completely short-circuits. The monk points out the massive waves of true chi practically exploding from the boy's core. It's an ocean of energy, built up obsessively since childhood. Panicking, Unsol desperately tries to set the record straight. He swears on his life that he's just a humble mortician with zero martial arts training. The martial arts, Saitama narrows his eyes. In the Muram world, only two things explain this. Either this kid is a phenomenal liar, or he literally mastered chi cultivation in his sleep. Desperate to clear his name, Unsol begs the master to believe him. He even offers his pulse to prove his absolute innocence. Intrigued by this wild claim, the monk leans in, asking if he can shatter this mysterious energy to test the theory. Unsol instantly agrees. The bald beast probes the boy's meridians, and his jaw practically hits the floor. The kid is a walking nuclear reactor of true chi, but it's completely stagnant. Somehow, he jammed all this raw power into his lower dantian, without knowing a single martial art. The legendary monk is absolutely mind-blown by this impossible glitch. He yanks Unsol by the collar, his eyes burning with intense curiosity. He demands to know who gave him this monstrous foundation. Unsol stammers, completely lost in the sauce, wondering what the crazy monk is even talking about. The master demands to know if anyone ever taught him a specific breathing rhythm. A light bulb goes off. Unsol remembers his late grandfather's weird breathing exercises. The monk orders him to demonstrate it right now. Unsol strikes a casual pose and inhales. Instantly, the bald master's eyes nearly pop out of his skull in pure disbelief. The crazy kid is performing a flawless cultivation technique while just casually standing around. After witnessing this absolute madness, he snaps him out of the trance, demanding to know if his grandpa really drilled this into him. Unsol nods aggressively, explaining it was just a morbid game of playing dead to survive inside a stuffy coffin. The master's mind is racing. He reveals this wasn't just some creepy party trick. It's an insane, high-tier method for hoarding true chi into the dantian. It's a pure accumulation art, entirely different from normal martial techniques that actually burn through energy. This kid has literally hoarded a staggering 10 years of pure internal energy. Trembling, the monk asks for the grandfather's name. Unsol casually replies that it is Bu Junyang. The moment those words leave his mouth, the sheer weight of that legendary name instantly shatters the master's composure. Turns out, only one legend in the entire Murim bears that name. He was once feared as the demonic path's absolute strongest swordsman, the former vice master of the demon palace itself. But Yunsol is completely in denial. How could an absolute powerhouse just become a lowly Undertaker? Then, the bald monk drops another massive bombshell. The breathing technique Yan Yang taught him, it actually belongs to the legendary Shaolin sect. Unsol freezes. This means his foundation is purely orthodox. Was his father actually a righteous orthodox master all along? Pure dread chills his spine. If the sect finds out, his position as a demonic master dies. Best case, he is stripped of rank. Worst case, absolute execution. Seeing his panic, the monk laughs. The monk completely trusts him. Plus, the demon palace definitely did an intense background check already. Since he passed their radar, he is safe. The bald master then declares he will teach a divine art. It is all to fulfill a life debt to the Wandering Beast Pavilion. He genuinely ignores the orthodox versus demonic rivalry, but he issues one bone-chilling warning. If Yunsol ever leaks this divine art to an outsider, he will slaughter him and his entire bloodline without a single second thought. Swallowing his fear, Unsol accepts the deadly terms. Seeing his fiery resolve, the master reveals his true name, Heo Gyumong. Heo asks a critical question. Does he know the real difference between orthodox and demonic cultivation? Yunsol shakes his head. The master breaks it down. Righteous paths follow the flow of nature to build inner power safely, but demonic ways? They ruthlessly devour energy by any twisted means possible. That is why demonic cultivators possess explosive raw power very early on. However, their extreme methods completely destroy the human body's natural balance. In the late game, though, righteous masters reign supreme, fueled by the pure, uncorrupted true chi they patiently refined. Heo drops a massive claim. The divine art he is passing down completely transcends cheap demonic tricks. It is the absolute peak of cultivation, a miraculous technique standing above all others in the Murim. But godly power demands a horrific toll. The awakening process is absolute, soul-crushing agony. He actually chewed off his own fingers just to survive the maddening pain. Anyone who survives this hell perfectly synchronizes with boundless internal energy. Then, Heo confesses his past. He was once a revered master of the Azure Dragon Temple, framed for murder, banished with a crippled core. While desperately trying to unseal his true chi, the Wandering Beast Pavilion saved his life. To repay that massive blood debt, he swore to pass down his legendary cultivation art to their successor, but he cannot just hand over godly power to a weakling. A brutal trial must happen right now. Heo declares he will blast his true chi through all 365 of Unsol's acupuncture points simultaneously. It is a forceful cleansing to widen his mana vessels. He warns the kid of the upcoming hellfire. Tap out now if you are weak. But our boy Yunsol, his eyes burn with absolute resolve. Bring it on. Smirking at his insane bravery, Heo violently surges his massive true chi straight into the boy's fragile meridians. Suddenly, the master freezes in absolute shock. He braced himself for agonizing screams, because the torture is usually unbearable. But Yunsol? He sits there in dead, eerie silence. Then, the impossible reality hits Heo. There is zero foul stench of impurities escaping the kid. His mana vessels are already flawlessly pure, no demonic taint at all. Heo roars in absolute excitement. This kid is the perfect vessel. The legendary training officially begins. Fast forward 6 grueling months. Yunsol's transformation is absolutely insane. The scrawny weakling is dead, replaced by a totally jacked powerhouse. Testing him, Heo launches a massive boulder straight at his head. Yunsol doesn't even flinch. He just ignites aura. Boom! The raw energy pressure alone vaporizes the rock instantly. Heo watches, his jaw practically hitting the floor. The kid actually mastered the impossible art. The old master is completely dumbfounded. Cracking this divine technique in a mere 6 months is unheard of. During this brutal grind, he completely stabilized and weaponized the massive true chi swirling inside his refined core. Smirking, Heo declares it is time to level up to the next deadly phase. Yunsol locks into a meditative stance, his chi roaring. He owes his master everything. The first legendary level achieved, but Yunsol still felt totally inadequate. This insane circulation technique featured 8 whole levels to conquer, and he refused to leave this mountain without unlocking Stage 2. Fueled by pure, burning ambition, Yunsol shattered his limits, leaving Hyul completely speechless. The master's jaw dropped as his student actually hit Stage 2, the legendary realm of untainted bone and muscle. It is a state designed to absolutely max out physical limits, but that massive power surge violently crushed his body. Right on cue, blinding agony ripped right through Yunsol. Crimson dripped from his clenched jaw as he fought the pain. Hyul instantly bolted behind him, bracing his student's trembling frame. He commanded the boy to clear his mind completely. But then Hyul realized the terrifying truth. Unsol's body was literally tearing apart under the massive true chi overload. If this chaotic energy kept raging, the kid's internal organs would be completely shredded. Zero hesitation. Hyul knew he had to sacrifice his own life force to save him. He slammed his palm against Unsol's back. He blasted his pure essence straight into the boy. When the dust finally settled, Unsol felt his core burning, with explosive new power. Glancing back, he spotted his master brutally exhausted. Panic hit as Unsol sprinted over, demanding if Hyul just sacrificed his own true chi. Seeing his student freaking out, the old master calmly brushed it off. He was locked inside the Wandering Beast Pavilion until this kid mastered everything anyway. Unsol was completely stunned. Beneath that hardcore, grumpy facade, his master was actually a deeply caring mentor. Overwhelmed with profound gratitude, Unsol looked him in the eye and swore he would never forget this massive debt. But Hyul coldly ordered the boy to erase him from his memory. Unsol's eyes widened. That was the exact same eerie warning Sowu gave him during the tournament. Hyul then laid down his ultimate condition for repayment. Master that breathing technique perfectly and conquer the legendary 8th stage, the ultimate realm of great origin. Taking a deep, grounding breath, Unsol vowed to shatter the ceiling his master never could. Hyul had capped out at Stage 5. Now that Unsol conquered Stage 2, the master proudly declared their training was officially over. The kid now desperately needed core martial arts fundamentals. Hyul ordered him to scale the towering cliff, bordering the western edge of the Wandering Beast Pavilion. That peak would become his new brutal training ground. Bowing deeply with total respect, Unsol accepted his fate. Fast forward exactly 3 months later, the sect's absolute elite unit, the legendary Wind Cloud Squad, finally touched back down at the pavilion. They parkoured across the rooftops just to flex their untouchable top-tier status. Their fierce squad leader, Baekhyun, deliberately exploded his intimidating aura until Dan finally stepped out to greet them. Baekhyun slowly peeled off his mask, dropping a highly formal greeting. Dan just sighed, reminding him to drop that stiff, polite nonsense. But Baek doubled down. He argued the pavilion's sacred rules were already crumbling apart. Still, Baek was pumped to catch Dan face to face. He stepped up and aggressively demanded answers. Why the hell did Dan recruit one of the 10 demon masters against his strict objections? Smirking, Dan dropped a bombshell. Unsol actually picked their sect himself, completely ghosting the prestigious Fire Rain sect's offer. Baek's jaw dropped at the kid's wild choice. Dan nodded, admitting that crazy stunt almost sparked a bloodbath. He playfully jabbed at Baek, telling him to be super proud of their new prodigy. But Baek was furious, snapping that this exact flex caused the Fire Rain sect to totally boycott the 10 demon masters. Baek lost his cool, screaming that their faction was already catching insane heat from the deadly demon palace. Taking Unsol under their wing was basically dumping gasoline on a raging inferno. Dan just flashed a calm smile. He sharply reminded Baek that the Wandering Beast Pavilion never cared about toxic Murim politics. Their only obsession was pure martial arts supremacy. Baek reluctantly swallowed his pride, but he fiercely demanded to test Unsol himself. After all, his elite demon master status was totally on the line. Meanwhile, Unsol was already tracking down his next mentor, Gowol. This guy was an infamous grand thief, legendary for his swift phantom technique. Gowol arrogantly flexed his skills, bragging that every single student who tried learning his footwork ended up permanently crippled. Their bodies literally snapped trying to match his god-tier speed. Gowol smirked, fully expecting Unsol to join that graveyard of broken bodies. But jaws dropped when Unsol absolutely mastered the deadly art in 30 days. Though totally mind-blown by this freakish talent, Gowol felt massive pride. He finally found a worthy monster to carry on his entire legacy. With his life's work passed down, the old thief officially shut down his dojo forever. He told Unsol the final stage was a solo journey, mastering the remaining phantom steps alone, to perfectly adapt them for actual, life-or-death combat. Soon after, Baek and Dan pulled up to spy on their prodigy, watching silently from a towering cliff. Watching Unsol execute the swift phantom art, Baek smirks, entirely convinced the rookie will fail at such an impossibly complex move. But Baek's jaw instantly drops as he witnesses the boy's flawless, ghost-like footwork. Stunned, He asks if the kid has been grinding this art since arriving at the pavilion. Dan shakes his head, clarifying the boy initially mastered a completely different skill instead. Reality hits Bake like a truck. The insane rumors about him mastering the wild beast path in just 2 weeks were absolutely true, which Dan proudly verifies. Dan explains that Sawu sacrificed his entire stash of spiritual water for the boy, which likely triggered his early transcendental nerve awakening. Bake scoffs at that logic. Elixirs alone could never grant someone such absurd, god-tier mastery over the technique. Changing the subject, Dan reminds him that he's currently running the show, while their pavilion master remains sealed in deep meditation. Bake's tone darkens. He reveals that the 10 demonic factions are absolutely furious about how the recent master selection tournament went down. The brutal truth? This whole program was secretly designed to forge elite monsters capable of slaughtering orthodox martial artists. Bake nods, adding that several oblivious factions actually sent their prized heirs into this lethal meat grinder. Dan shrugs it off as a minor hiccup, but Bake warns him that a catastrophic political storm is brewing. The terrifying reality? Unsol brutally ended the life of Kang Muryong, the sole heir to the powerful White Demon Temple. Dan could honestly care less about the tragedy. To him, it was a pure skill issue. Every single participant knew the deadly stakes before stepping into the arena. But Bake drops another bomb. The White Demon Temple isn't alone in wanting blood. The Fire Rain sect is equally enraged. They are absolutely losing their minds because an outsider like Unsol perfectly executed their sacred, unrivaled lightning and thunder art. The faction is screaming for severe punishment. They even dragged Qian down, stripping him of his prestigious title just for teaching the boy. Dan's eyes widen in sheer disbelief. They still want a piece of Unsol? Even after completely destroying his master's career over this? Bake sighs, revealing the ultimate trap. The elders demand a brutal trial to prove if Unsol truly deserves his demonic title. If the rookie fails this deadly test, his martial arts journey ends forever. He will never wield a blade again. Mid-conversation, a shadow blots out the sun. Unsol lands silently beside them, interrupting the heavy tension. Shaking off the shock, Dan praises the kid's insane progress before formally introducing him to Bake. Ever the humble warrior, Unsol bows deeply. Bake skips the pleasantries, declaring they need to have a serious talk about his fate. Dan frantically interrupts, warning Bake that stressing the kid out with these dark politics is absolutely pointless. But Unsol's voice slices through the panic. His eyes burn with resolve as he steps up, fully prepared to face the deadly consequences. The two seniors freeze, realizing the rookie eavesdropped on everything. Bowing slightly, Unsol calmly apologizes for intruding on their secret chat. He casually reveals he was scanning their chi vibrations using his mind's eye. Bake's jaw hits the floor, stammering out a question. Was he multitasking that crazy sensory skill while practicing extreme footwork? Unsol nods calmly, explaining he simply synced his movements with the subtle energy ripples across the water. Bake looks like he's seen a ghost, while Dan just sighs, completely immune to the rookie's daily, logic-defying miracles. Thrilled to witness such god-tier talent, Bake grins wildly and suggests they bet everything on this monstrous prodigy. Dan panics, furious that Bake actually wants to throw their star pupil straight into the Demon Palace's lethal trap. Bake fires back, insisting the trial is just a political stunt to appease the grieving temple leader, not a guaranteed death sentence. That's precisely why the neutral Demon Palace was chosen as the battleground, keeping him away from those bloodthirsty rival sects. Bake grimly warns that dodging this summons will only ignite a full-blown war against their faction. While the seniors aggressively bicker, Unsol coldly interrupts, declaring his absolute readiness to crush the trial. With chilling logic, he points out that assassinating him publicly would completely destroy the enemy's precious reputation anyway. Plus, as a fierce warrior of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, backing down from a direct challenge simply isn't in his DNA. Bake loudly cheers the boy on, telling Dan this bold move is the ultimate solution to permanently silence their annoying haters. Outnumbered and totally cornered, Dan sighs heavily and finally gives them the green light. But he stares dead into Unsol's eyes, ordering him to extract an ironclad vow of peace from those furious factions once he dominates their little test. With the path set, Unsol marches straight toward the legendary Demon Palace. Stepping through the massive iron gates, a nostalgic smirk crosses his face as he realizes how much stronger he has become since his rookie days. A silent servant swiftly escorts him into the echoing Grand Hall, cryptically whispering that a mysterious VIP would be handling his deadly trial today. Stepping inside, Unsol gazes deep into the Demon Palace's legendary Grand Hall, the absolute nerve center controlling every shadowy operation. Think of it as the dark reflection of the Murim Alliance's strategy hub, and the very stage where he must violently prove his ultimate worth. Crossing the massive threshold, he locks eyes with the imposing Grand Hall Master, Bake Junseo. Junseo instantly senses his aura, praising the monstrous key that had already sparked endless rumors. The master cuts to the chase, questioning if Yunsol understands his true summons and the fracturing 10 demonic sects. Confused, Yunsol questions if the palace and the 10 sects are actually divided factions. Hearing this rookie question, Junseo sighs, realizing the Wandering Beast Pavilion kept the kid totally in the dark. He begins breaking down how the palace acts as a fragile alliance binding the brutal 10 demonic sects. While deeply connected by blood and darkness, they are definitely not best friends. Junseo reveals that traditionally, a dominant sect powerhouse claims the palace master throne, but the previous ruler shattered that tradition. Now, intense bad blood boils between several dark paths and the central palace. The puzzle pieces click in Yunsol's mind. This is merely a toxic business partnership, with countless rogue cults harboring pure hatred for the ruling palace. Dropping a massive lore bomb, Junseo admits the 10 Demon Masters project was never about selecting rightful heirs, but rather forging bloodthirsty living weapons designed to slaughter orthodox legends. Simply put, the brutal tournament was a sinister palace conspiracy to completely annihilate the Murim Alliance's top brass. The 10 sects originally rebelled, but the palace ruthlessly twisted their arms until they surrendered their most prized disciples. However, the bloodbath claimed several elite prodigies, and thanks to Yunsol's insane rampage, the central palace is now facing massive political backlash. Junseo coldly confesses this meeting is a literal death trap, cleverly disguised as an official trial. He asks if the boy knows he's walking into his doom, and Yunsol fearlessly nods. A dark smirk forms on Junseo's face, thrilled by the kid's icy confidence. Wrapping up the heavy lore dump, he pivots straight to the brutal reality. He reveals the White Demon Temple and Fire Rain sect pulled massive strings, blessing him with VIP entry into the legendary 10,000 demonic truth pavilion. This sacred vault is absolutely packed with ancient, forbidden knowledge, and Junseo tosses him a gleaming golden token, unlocking its heavy doors. The towering structure boasts 3 mystical levels, but this specific token only grants him passage into the absolute bottom tier. Still, even that foundational floor holds roughly 25,000 unique, mind-bending martial arts manuals, an insane arsenal Junseo insists will massively boost his survival odds. They are only offering this rare blessing because his chances of surviving the actual trial are practically zero. The elders are desperately covering their tracks to avoid any nasty rumors about an unfair execution. Dropping that heavy truth, Junseo details the insane objective: survive 5 devastating full-power strikes from a lethal master handpicked by the White Demon Temple. He even confesses that the head instructor literally sacrificed his prestigious rank to guarantee Yunsol advanced into this bloodbath. When pressed about this crazy gamble, the instructor merely smirked, promising the results would speak volumes. With 0 hour rapidly approaching, Junseo is totally hyped to witness exactly what kind of hidden monster that crazy instructor saw in him. Gripping the golden token, Yunsol hits the outer lobby, unexpectedly colliding with Jin Gok. Shocked to find his former superior deep inside enemy territory, he learns Jin Gok wields massive underground influence here. Turns out, his gig as a Hell Island assistant was just a cover, secretly filling in for the absent master during the tournament's chaotic peak. Catching a glimpse of the shining artifact in Yunsol's grip, Jin Gok instantly asks if he is preparing to raid the Truth Pavilion. The main character nods, prompting his old mentor to drop some heavy, life-saving wisdom before the storm. Jin Gok intensely warns him that the martial world is a savage, unforgiving meat grinder, where free gifts are nothing but beautifully wrapped poison. He preaches that every single favor masks a deadly, cold-blooded scheme. After delivering that chilling reality check, Jin Gok firmly claps his shoulder, believing the kid can manifest a miracle inside this absolute death trap. Dropping a cryptic martial proverb about trees blooming from their deepest roots, he leaves Yunsol respectfully bowing in gratitude. With his mentor's unwavering support locked in, Yunsol marches straight to the legendary, towering 10,000 demonic truth pavilion. The sheer scale of the architecture is breathtaking. Stepping inside, he instantly realizes this is no ordinary dusty archive. His jaw practically drops. Every single book lining these walls is a pure, unadulterated martial arts manual. But after wandering the aisles for a few minutes, reality smacks Unseol in the face. This whole setup is a massive trap. Sure, he is surrounded by legendary forbidden techniques, but mastering any of this within 24 hours is absolutely impossible. Trying to cram these moves would just burn out his clock. He instantly knows his haters set him up to fail. The Fire Rain sect and White Demon Temple are definitely playing mind games, but Unseol refuses to break, locking in completely unfazed. Suddenly, a flashback hits him. He remembers Jin Gok dropping some serious wisdom about trees needing strong roots to grow, and the puzzle pieces finally snap together. He knows exactly what his next move is. He sprints through the massive library until he spots it, the Wandering Beast reversal technique. an ancient manual straight from his own pavilion. Heart-pounding, he flips it open, but the contents completely blindside him. Fast forward through his intense prep time, and Judgment Day finally rolls around. Unseol strides into the massive arena. Waiting for him is the head proctor, Elder Gok Gyobong, radiating serious authority. The VIP stands are packed tight. Yu Unseol, from the notorious Fire Rain sword sect, glares down at him with venom. Nyung Gok is holding it down for the Wandering Beast Pavilion, alongside the ultimate threat, Go Gun Pyung from the White Demon Temple. Go steps up, his voice dripping with arrogance. As one of the 10 demon masters, he is here to personally test our boy's limits. Elder Gok shifts his intense gaze toward the rival sect leaders, demanding a clear answer before the bloodshed begins. He asks the million-dollar question. If Unseol survives this hellish trial, will their petty grudges finally end? Both reps eagerly agree, swearing on their honor to bury the hatchet if he actually makes it out alive. With the terms locked in stone, Gok officially kicks off the brutal exam. Go strolls into the ring, smirking as he lays down the impossible rules. Survive just 5 strikes. That is it. But behind that smirk, Go harbors a secret, cold-blooded mission to assassinate Unseol. Yet, out of a twisted respect for the pavilion's legacy, Go decides to show mercy. He will not kill him, just sever both his arms. On the 5th move, suddenly, Go explodes into action. Unseol is completely stunned by the terrifying zero-cast time, proving the guy's mastery is absolutely lethal. Demonic energy rockets toward Unseol's chest, but he desperately leaps backward, narrowly escaping the first deadly strike. But Go does not give him a single second to breathe, instantly unleashing his second form. A barrage of devastating energy arcs swarms the arena. Unseol is forced to sprint for his life, weaving through the explosive chaos. Go raises an eyebrow in sheer surprise. Unseol actually tracked the invisible blades, all thanks to his awakened wild beast senses, but the Demon Master just laughs. The nightmare is just starting. In a flash, the third technique descends from above like a torrential storm. Millions of deadly aura drops carpet bomb the entire battlefield. Trapped in a maze of terrifying illusions, Unseol realizes his only option. He has to evade every single drop or face instant defeat. His eyes glow with resolve as he pushes his physical limits to the absolute max. He becomes a literal blur of motion. The devastating attack crashes down, shaking the earth. But as the heavy smoke slowly clears, Go's eyes widen in absolute shock. Unseol is still standing on his own 2 feet, rocking nothing but a badass scratch on his cheek. The legendary Swift Phantom technique saved his life. Still, a cold sweat drops down Unseol's neck. If Go had unleashed his full killing intent, it would be over. Meanwhile, the Demon Master is visibly annoyed. His flawless, high-tier combo barely left a scratch on this rookie. At this rate, harvesting the kid's arms is going to be way harder than expected. Go's aura turns pitch black as he stops holding back, channeling immense demonic energy for the 4th trial, the White Demon Heart Strike. A blinding, terrifying laser of pure destruction charges up, paralyzing Unseol in his tracks. Fear grips his heart as he realizes his current speed is completely useless here. One wrong step, and he is stepping right into the afterlife. Just as death approaches, his mind flashes back to that mysterious library manual, the very text he risked everything to read. He remembers how his jaw dropped when he first cracked the spine, only to realize the intro was just an insane rant totally roasting the Wandering Beast Pavilion. But once you push past the brutal disrespect, the core chapters brilliantly exposed the hidden, fatal flaws of their martial arts path. Unseol suddenly understood the genius author's twisted logic. The harsh insults were a filter, meant to trigger everyone except true disciples. The ancient text preached a core survival philosophy. A master does not just react. They must hyper-focus their mind, calculate the flow, and forcefully evolve their raw senses during life or death crises. With the Grim Reaper breathing down his neck, Unseol completely syncs with the teachings. Time slows down as he awakens his ultimate perception. Whoosh! He effortlessly glides past the lethal White Demon Heart Strike like a ghost. The entire stadium erupts in dead, stunned silence. Go's arrogant smirk shatters into pure disbelief. That is an ultimate finishing move. Even seasoned masters back at his temple would get absolutely shredded trying to dodge that. The terrifying truth finally hits Go like a massive freight train. This kid is not a joke. He is a generational anomaly destined to crush their empires. The rival sects were absolutely right to want him dead. Go finally snaps, deciding Unseol has to die right now. For his 5th and final strike, he unleashes the absolutely devastating White Demon Divine Serpent technique. The goal? Erase him completely. Unseol smoothly dodges the initial blast, but out of nowhere, he realizes this homing strike is locked on, hell-bent on dragging him to the afterlife. Turns out, the legendary White Demon, Divine Serpent, is a completely cracked ability that absolutely refuses to vanish until it tastes fresh blood. Knowing this, Go is utterly convinced Unsol is about to get decapitated. Knowing evasion is literally impossible, our guy goes all in, sparking up the unrivaled lightning and thunder art. He braces his bare hand against the savage strike, triggering a blinding golden flash. But even that crazy defense isn't enough. After violently clashing for a few agonizing seconds, the serpent mercilessly shatters his guard, brutally impaling Yunsol's shoulder. The insane kinetic impact instantly launches him flying across the battlefield, but he stubbornly refuses to hit the dirt. He violently skids to his knees, and despite his right arm hanging completely dead, Yunsol firmly grips his bloodied blade with his left hand. Lifting his head, his gaze radiates pure, spine-chilling killing intent. As he proves he is not done fighting, Go is totally mind-blown, yet genuinely terrified that this absolute menace will survive, just to become a massive headache later. Panicking, he decides the smartest play right now is to permanently erase Unseol. But right as he charges up another deadly strike, the Wandering Beast Pavilion rep tightly grips his arm, bluntly reminding him his 5-move limit is totally spent. Go violently yanks his arm away from Gak, throwing a massive tantrum over the physical contact. But Gak just glares back with icy fury, warning Go that their entire alliance with the Demon Palace is completely cooked if Go dares to break the rules here. Suddenly, the Fire Rain sect rep aggressively steps into the drama, claiming Yunseol stole their sect's secret martial art. He demands they entirely void the exam results, bringing back their original petty grudge. Gak instantly claps back, telling this clown he is seriously pushing his luck, since absolutely zero rules stated. Yunsol was banned from using the unrivaled lightning and thunder art. He savagely adds that Xian would actually be hyped, seeing his technique flexed like that. The rep completely loses his mind, feeling like Gak is basically trash-talking his entire faction. Gak smoothly lays down the facts. Go just unleashed the ultimate, most broken white demon technique, yet Unsol successfully tanked it with the unrivaled thunder art. The only logical conclusion here, Gak smirks, is that the Fire Rain's power absolutely stomps the White Demon Temple's legacy. With that one savage comment, Gak flawlessly ignites a massive ego war between the two rival organizations. Knowing the Fire Rain guys are too incredibly arrogant to deny being called the absolute strongest, they literally have zero choice but to swallow their pride and back down. Defeated, Go loudly announces the deal stands. He officially declares that our boy has triumphantly reclaimed his legendary status as a 10-demon master, with full permission to wield his blade. Following the epic announcement, Gak quickly turns around to congratulate him on his insane victory. But noticing Yunsol's blank, lifeless stare, Gak rushes over to catch him, realizing the absolute madman literally passed out while standing up. Later on, Unsol slowly blinks awake inside another unfamiliar, luxurious bedroom. He is completely baffled, hilariously wondering why his life has become an endless cycle of spawning in random VIP suites. Suddenly, the brutal exam flashes back, and massive panic sets in. What kind of devastating punishment awaits if he actually failed? Trapped in total suspense, he crosses his legs and begins circulating his internal energy to stay calm. As the aura flows, he detects an absolutely insane reservoir of true chi flooding his veins. Suddenly, Hyo's past warning echoes in his mind, revealing he is literally carrying 10 whole years of compressed spiritual energy. This insane power was supposed to stay locked away, until his core acupoints finally opened. Judging by this crazy internal heat, that deathmatch exam basically shattered his limiters. In a flash of insight, Unsol accidentally breaks through to the 3rd stage of the legendary reverse polarity art. This god-tier realm grants literal immunity to both raging fire and freezing water. Right in the middle of this epic awakening, a graceful servant steps inside, casually dropping the bomb that he is crashing in the sacred demon gathering pavilion. That is literally the personal domain of the almighty Elder Pavilion Master. Unsol internally screams, fully expecting to be chilling in a boring infirmary, not the most terrifying VIP zone ever. Cold sweat drops as he trembles, knowing exactly how insanely overpowered and ruthless the Elder really is. Nicknamed the Blood Demon, this absolute monster stands supreme among the 3 demons and 3 venerables, occupying the absolute peak of the martial world. The attendant introduces herself as Jin Sul, adding that the terrifying Elder specifically requested his presence in the inner sanctum. Hearing this boss-level summons, Unsol's panic skyrockets to an absolute maximum. Word drops that the Elder awaits inside the inner sanctum. Crossing the estate, a wildly stunning, mystical garden completely blows Unsol's mind. Entering the massive chamber, he finally confronts the waiting Elder. The master